All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Unified Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier number 1, day 5. It's quarterfinals. I'm your host, Izzy, and I'm joined today by my wonderful desk analyst, Hawk, who you may remember from Open Qualifiers casting. And we're also joined by Manny, captain of Ithaca College Esports, and amateur producer. You're here, you're there, and today you're on our screens. So welcome, guys. How are y'all?
I'm great. Thank you so much for the introduction. And by the way, shout out to Grapes for that awesome Fruit for Thought video. The Taco Bell's in operation graph really providing the hard-hitting analysis for us.
Yeah, that video was awesome. We're going to see if it's Taco Tuesday or not, but I'm happy to be here. We're buried in snow up here in Ithaca, but, hopefully they're not going to be stuck on the rift, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's a warm 70 degrees here in Arizona, so I can't say that I relate. I hope y'all are doing well. We have Golden Guardians Academy versus No Team first up on our best of threes today for quarterfinals, which will be followed by Winthrop University versus Wildcard Gaming later. Super excited for these series, and we'll be taking a look at the bracket here in just a moment. We've also got 100 Thieves next and EG Prodigies on the Academy stream, which will be followed by Taco Gaming and Immortals AoE. So exciting stuff. What do you guys think of the other series today?
I gotta be honest, I think across the board, we've got some incredible matchups. 100 Thieves next against EG Prodigies in particular, two LCS affiliated orgs going blow for blow. Two of the top amateur teams around, most certainly. So definitely be sure to tune into that one on the Academy stream, as well as down here, Golden Guardians Academy versus No Team, the Academy team versus the pinnacle of amateur. I do believe we might be having a little bit of technical difficulties on Manny's end, so we are working on getting that one sorted out. So sorry about that, but as he was saying, the matchups across the board are awesome, and we're all looking forward to them. We've seen a lot of these snippets of these throughout OQs and previous years, and although the rosters are looking different now coming into 2022, we've seen a lot of games out of each and every single one of these teams, so it should be very exciting to keep our eyes out for throughout the night.
Yes, for sure. And today's matchups, if we want to, kind of circle in on what we've got going over here on Unified Live, Hawk, I just want to ask, we kind of have two underdog situations in Golden Guardians Academy and No Team, and then Winthrop and Wildcard. Winthrop coming into the tournament with a lower seed, but having all those upsets, whereas No Team, might look like an underdog that might need to struggle a little more to get a win here today. So what are you thinking in terms of Winthrop and No Team in their respective matches?
Well, I think it's really interesting because Winthrop, yeah, as you said, came in as an underdog. They took down Immortals AoE on their quest out of Group C in the group stage, which is no small feat. And then No Team as well has already faced off against Golden Guardians Academy once this tournament. They lost to them in the open qualifiers in a game that was maybe a little closer than Golden Guardians Academy had bargained for. So definitely a big one to be keeping our eyes on. Both of these games, big ones to be keeping our eyes on, with a lot of interesting storylines that I'm sure we will get into as the night progresses.
Yeah, and Manny, welcome back. Glad we could get those technical difficulties sorted. What are your takes on the matchups today?
I mean, I'm not sure how much you guys got before the call drop, but what I was saying was I've been really impressed with the level of parity so far in this tournament. A lot of big mainstays that we've seen in the, like Immortals AoE, like Wildcard, they have dropped off in the group stage, right? They got the second seeds out. So we're going to see a lot of really interesting quarterfinals because of that.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screen right now, we've got the matchups of both the Academy and the Unified live stream today. So lots of exciting stuff there. We will have to see how these teams perform, if we can get any upsets in the works today. Now, I do kind of want to talk about the players. Manny, start us off with Golden Guardians Academy. What's your read on them? What should we expect with these players?
So something into like the
All right, GGA versus no team. Who's taking it?
for Golden Guardians Academy that I don't think we've ever seen before, and I really don't think we're ever going to see again in World Esports history, right? I don't think there's ever been a team of the same 5 players that have played in all 3 tiers of competition in a region at the exact same time, right? Golden Guardians Academy, they played 14 stage games in the last 2 weeks across the Proving Grounds qualifiers here, Academy, and the LCS lock-in. They've been playing in official matches Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. They're playing pretty much as much league as physically possible right now. So I guess the question is that helping them or hurting them?
Yes, that is the question that we'll have to answer today, because I was going to ask you, what do you expect? Do you expect this to be helpful or maybe hurtful?
I would say in the short term, it's probably very helpful in the fact that they get to scrim against LCS teams, or at least the parts of LCS teams that are in lock-in right now. They still get their normal academy practice, and the reason they're in this tournament was at the beginning extra practice. And so I think in the short term, it's probably going to be beneficial. Long term, we'll see how they are at the end of the split in terms of burnout.
Absolutely. That is, something for me. I've definitely wondered, what is the long-term effects of their schedule? Certain players to watch. Who are you got your eyes on today?
For me personally, I am going for Iconic. Iconic is going to have to match up right today with one of NA's most exciting jungle prospects right now in Griffin. He's had a bit of a quiet year in LCS last season, and then he kind of got moved down to Academy this season. But so far, he's been great here, right? He got the better of Griffin when they played each other last time in the open qualifiers. But for me, this matchup is going to be very exciting because everything with no team sort of runs through Griffin. So if GGA is going to take the series, they're going to need to shut him down. The two players, they got pretty different styles, right? Griffin favors a much more aggressive champ pool, while Iconic, he's a lot more well-rounded. He's a veteran presence. And honestly, I think that it's going to be the jungle matchup here that dictates how this series plays out. Since, on paper, GGA, they're the academy squad, right? They should have stronger individual players in most of their roles. No team, they often rely on Griffin sort of generating his own advantages. And I think that's going to be primarily up to Iconic to neutralize him. And I do think he's up to the task.
Yeah, now, Hawk, I want to get your thoughts on no team. But before you do, any kind of standout players for you on GGA?
Yeah, well, Manny said it best. I feel like this jungle matchup really will be where the game is dictated. But of course, you can't dictate a jungle matchup without first controlling the mid lane. And we have the ex-LCS mid laner in Ryoma. Actually, 4 out of the 5 players on Golden Guardians Academy are ex-LCS. However, Ryoma is a stellar mid laner, and looking at this mid matchup, seeing which way it's going to go, that was the bane of no team's existence in their match in the open qualifier. It was Ryoma was able to get the better of Blaze. So if I had to pick one player on no team that I've really got my eyes on, it's Blaze. Whether or not he's able to match up against Ryoma, neutralize that pressure going towards the mid lane, and not only neutralize, but thrive. Because if Blaze is getting perma pushed in, then Griffin's job becomes a lot harder. We saw it in the open qualifier. A lot of attention thrown mid. They weren't able to get that unstuck. Ryoma dictated the pressure exceptionally well and absorbed it so that his team could win on the sides. And if he's able to do that again, I think this series will be almost impossible for no team. However, if Blaze is able to step up to the plate and get something going for himself in the mid lane, get Griffin out on the map and start making plays on the sides, Golden Guardians Academy might be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I do also want to talk about how this no team is comprised of a lot of familiar faces in amateur, but also some new faces. And they're up against one of the, most well-known orgs in the tournament, but they are this no team. So what is the story here, Hawk, with this team?
Well, I just think it's incredible. This no team roster, there are 5 excellent amateur players that all were not able to find a roster going into 2022. I mean, it's right there, what it says on the tin. Outside of Griffin, all 4 of the other players have experience at the amateur level over the previous years. And so they have come together and decided they were going to form their own team, and they were going to show the scene that amateur is still a force to be reckoned with, whether or not you have an org. And I remember one of the big stories of the 2021 offseason coming into 2022 was that maybe fewer amateur players got academy shots, as some analysts may have wanted. And now here's your chance to prove it if you are no team. You are up against the Academy team, Golden Guardians Academy. And if you can take them down, that would be a statement win, a trademark win for this roster that came in, almost the Misfit Toys roster, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see this matchup just because of that, right? It is the Academy team versus, these young, hungry players. They're trying to prove themselves, and like you said, this is it. This is the time, right? And I think if you're Golden Guardians Academy, in light of all the practice that you've been getting in Academy and in LCS, you kind of gotta have this one here today, right? I mean, there's no team in this tournament that has a bigger target on their back than GGA right now. And, I do think they've got the veteran presence to be able to outlast them, right? But I'm really, really excited to see how this plays out, because it's really like the best of the dynamic that we get here in amateur, right? You get an Academy team versus, 5 guys and a dream with a MS Paint logo, right?
Absolutely. Now, I want to hear your guys' predictions, official predictions for these matches today. Hawk, to you. What do you think?
Well, we are in a world right now where if no team and wildcard win the 2 matches that we have here on Unified Live today, then it will be amateur only in the semifinals. So, all aboard the amateur hype train, to quote Monte Cristo a little bit differently, as I am taking no team 2-1 up against Golden Guardians Academy. I think they can do it if Blaze is able to step up to the plate and keep Ryoma down, or at least make himself relevant on the map. I think no team has a legitimate shot in this one. Now, it is a very tall task what I just asked, going up against Ryoma and Iconic, an extremely experienced, extremely proficient 2v2 in the mid jungle right there. But if they're able to get it done, this team has its own star power. These players are incredible, and they out team fought Golden Guardians Academy last time around. So I think there's a world where they can do it again.
Well, you know what, Hawk? I respect that prediction. I really do, right? I gotta disagree, right? I gotta take the safe option. Personally, I think Golden Guardians Academy, they match up very well into No Team. No Team kind of relies, like we mentioned earlier, on generating those big early leads through their jungler Griffin. And I think that Golden Guardians Academy, they've got 4 players with LCS experience on that team. I think that they're going to be able to outlast No Team's, early shenanigans. I'm taking Golden Guardians 2-0.
Well, those are some hot takes from Hawk here on the desk. And if you want your hot takes to be shown, feel free to tweet #WeAreUnified, and your hot takes might be shown on broadcast, which would be super fun. We want to see your predictions. We want to hear from you and your thoughts against this Golden Guardians No Team matchup. Super exciting. Final thoughts heading into this.
Well, for me personally, I'm just super excited to see this, because I feel like this matchup is so easily built up as the amateurs against the pros, 4x LCS, all of which now the entirety of Golden Guardians Academy obviously is in Academy. They are playing at pretty much the top level. Manny said it's 6 days a week of stage games. This team is Goliath, and right now no team is David, and I'm just excited to see if they're able to do it. Is it likely? No, right? But I think there's a world, and that's why I'm going to jump on the No Team hype train for this one. And I think that the series could be more exciting than some people may expect, even if Golden Guardians Academy is favored on paper.
I agree with you.
And
oh, sorry, go for it.
no, yeah, I was gonna say, you say ex-LCS, but they're currently kind of playing in the LCS right now. So.
That's true, right? They're
How
playing.
far can we get
they're
with that?
current LCS, current Academy, currently amateur as well, obviously. So I mean, this roster on GGA, they've got a lot of experience, they've got a lot of practice right now. But like you mentioned before, there's always the potential of an upset. We've seen it so far this tournament, and no team has a lot of hungry young guns that are going to prove themselves, and I'm really excited to see how this series plays out.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that the last time Golden Guardians faced off up against No Team in Open Quals, they put up a 36-minute game. So it wasn't like they were quite, ones to just roll over. So maybe in these last few weeks they found their groove and they can put out a win. But maybe Golden Guardians, with all their stage experience, are in fact getting the practice they need to, continue to put No Team in their place and take another dub. We'll be throwing it to casters Rebel Fox and Deserix just a moment. And yeah, we'll get into game 1 draft. So everyone enjoy.
Thank you so much, Izzy, and thank you to the analyst desk for that overview. And welcome to the casting desk. My name is Eric Deserux Patran. Joining me on the desk is Dean Rebel Fox Merrick. I forgot to put the no nonsense there. Dean, how you doing today?
I'm always doing great. No nonsense as usual, of course. Had my typical daily routine of everything. But the most exciting part of my entire week is always getting to cover all of League of Legends, especially here in Amateur. And now that we've broken into playoffs, things get all the more exciting. Things get all the more impactful. Everything becomes very important. It's now lose and you get kicked out. So everything, the stakes and everything are just raising by the moment.
And it couldn't be more exciting than this matchup that we have right in front of us, and that is going to be Golden Guardians Academy taking on No Team. We've already had some breakdown from the analysts because, as they talked about, this is an interesting matchup, right? We do have an Academy team, and we were talking a little bit before this broadcast started that, you know, it's one thing to be an Academy team that comes with big expectations, but it also comes with a lot of challenges when you are concurrently running 2 seasons at the same time.
You're arguably running 3 seasons right now with the LCS lock-in with Academy and everything else. It's curious exactly what it is that they're doing at the beginning of the season. I know Golden Guardians' history as a team, altogether, oftentimes they've had struggles inside of Academy. They've been the only team that's ever really showed up for some of these tournaments and things like Amateur before in the past. But they always have a very good kind of coming of age story at the end of the season where it seems like they've transformed, they've been able to develop, they've been the ones that have made the changes. You even remember last season when they were one of the bottom teams inside of Academy, and they were able to take 3rd inside of Proving Grounds because of just how much League of Legends they play, how much they adapt. And it seems like they've been following a similar metric. They're playing as much as they can. They're the best of their ability to be able to themselves as the season progresses.
And their opponents on the other side of the rift, No Team, Pukar, XT, the rest of that entire No Team roster. Just bless you guys so much, man. This team kind of popped up out of nowhere, as the analyst desk said. Of course, Hawk is very excited to see what this team can bring. Over in the open qualifiers, they only dropped to Maryville GGA. They made their way into the circuit qualifiers. Best Radiance in 3 games. Then after losing 100 Thieves Next, they say, you know what, Radiance? I'm going to do it again. Take them out and make their way here to the bracket stage.
Anybody should buy into 100% because this is a roster that's built on fantastic foundations. In previous seasons, you got to see Dragoon go to Scouting Grounds. You got Scooped. You got who was formerly known as Plux as both really high contenders inside of Scouting Grounds and Proving Grounds previously. The foundation that it's built on with 2 newer comers in Griffin, who's like one of the best team prospects that we have, has been insane for this team, has just been insane in general. In the jungle position, a lot of No Team is built around just the bones of what Griffin's able to bring. And I think Blaze has actually been incredible too. He never really had this like superstar-filled roster to work with inside of Proving Grounds last bit. This is his first opportunity, and he showed up when he needs to.
Yeah, so overall, a great roster we're seeing come here together. Again, brought together at the last second. I want to throw back over to Griffin. You were talking about him just being, 15 years old. This is the first time he's ran with the squad over in North American Amateur. And when the kid carries, he can really carry. It's definitely going to be a strong point for No Team. But he's up against Iconic, someone who's definitely has a lot of potential, has shown a lot of ruthless aggression, all the way to his call-up to the Golden Guardians org. It's going to be a highly contestable jungle matchup.
Yeah, what I'd seen previously from Iconic, especially before he stepped up to Golden Guardians, was that he was just an absolute menace. If you could beat Iconic, it was a very rare kind of blow to be able to throw in from any collegiate or amateur organization. Griffin, last time that they played, didn't have a bunch of struggle. It was a winning matchup for Iconic. He won significantly when it came to CSing and things, but the pressure was still there from Griffin. If you want to be able to take out the side of No Team, one of the biggest ways to do so is to make sure that that is a losing matchup for Griffin in the jungle v jungle. And I think Golden Guardians, given the fact that they're scouting in 3 places at once, they have to be able to pick up on something like that. So I'm hoping to see Iconic on something very powerful that he could use to abuse Griffin early on. This is a shock value test for the young 15-year-old with one junglers that's come out of collegiate or amateur in the last couple of years.
I think another lane we're going to be watching very closely, especially in this draft, is going to be the bot lane. Stixay and Chime versus Scooped and Jishuka. Stixay and Chime, of course, very, very experienced. Chime has been looking like a stud so far this year. Not afraid to assert more control on picks like Karma and Lux. Stixay, a very excellent ADC in terms of consistency. Has even pulled out the Callista earlier on in this tournament. Got a victory with 7 kills onto that one. It is going to be a challenge for the younger ADCs in Scooped and Jishuka to try and handle that.
Yeah, the two of them are experienced. They've been together for a very long time, but this has also been something that I think for no team has been collapsible. It feels like Dragoon has been a pretty solid rock. Blaze is usually a solid rock. Even when he falls behind, he's still able to contribute. And Griff times is still able to make up for a lot of things with his mechanics. But this bottom lane, specifically Jizuke, feels like the teams when it comes to the support versus support matchup. So that's what I'm watching for. Chime is already one of the best supports inside of the tournament, probably one of the best players inside of the tournament, hands down. We're hoping not to see another iteration of Chime time against Jizuka underneath the bottom tower the way they had when they played in the open qualifiers match.
All right, so bans out of the way. Golden Guardians taking away TF, LeBlanc, and Xinjiao. No team taking away Caitlyn, Thresh, and Corki. The first pick for Golden Guardians is going to be the Diana, taking that in the jungle role.
Now, it's interesting because you don't ever really think of Ryoma as like this in the current iteration. Oftentimes, that's the case.
Next pick's coming in. No team. Gonna lock in the Renekton and the Jinx over for no team. So, Scooped, the interesting thing about him and the play he's been doing throughout this entire tournament is he's had a very diverse champion pool. In this tournament, 5 different matches, 5 different ADCs. So, kind of spicy to see that go through as a lock-in for a little bit of early and mid-game aggression comes in for no team.
Pretty solid, I think, as a team fighting rock side of no team altogether. That's at least how I'm seeing everything come about from the side of this squad. GGA are able to test it because they've got Stixay, who obviously is like a battle hard type marksman in the bottom side. They still have this experienced bot. So to me, no team actually has to put a fair amount of resource. I said it before that Blaze and Dragoon usually can come out relatively unscathed. I feel like more resource needs to go into bottom side for no team. That's the best way they can get scooped out and about into team fighting where the comfort is really there, where the power is really there for this ADC.
For Golden Guardians Academy, you have a lot of skirmish that can just wreak havoc onto no team. The Gwen locked in so far, Lucian locked in so far. You don't need much itemization to get those champions online.
Not at all. I still wanted to see the Yasuo, but it feels like we might not actually get that. I was really hoping that the Yana Yasuo combination was going to come out and that GGA were just going to put pedal to the metal and go immediately inside of the confines of this game. I find it a lot more interesting also. NFT go for the Renekton. You and I talked a little bit, we'll probably touch on it a little bit later, about the diversity of the champion pool. Champions that have been played pretty consistently throughout the majority of the tournament. The Renekton priority there because Tony Top is taken to playing that for the majority of this tournament.
So no team gonna lock in the Victor, get a control mage over into the mid lane, and one of the most authoritative control mages once you're able to put that gravitational field, get some zone control working for you. Should work decently well with this composition thus far, at least trying to provide some method of control to be able to get the Jinx online and make sure she can pop off in a lot of these fights as well, as the damage you can really provide with that Victor pick.
Consistent kind of late game damage carries. This was sort of the recipe that no team went for back when they played against Golden Guardians inside of the FIT. It was a very elongated game, and it took Golden Guardians a very long time to close that out. I'm pretty sure it was a 40-plus minute game where Blaze was able to be just this consistent menace. I don't think Scoop was ever to fully step up in that game the way that they wanted to. I'm pretty sure it was like an Aphelios Jinx matchup where the Aphelios died one time and the Jinx like that, and it was just like team fight after team fight. It would Scoop would go down and Stixay would not go down, and it was a fun. And Blaze again was able to kind of bridge that gap. But what we're looking for is defense for the Jinx. Hopefully, a little bit longer range is going to be helpful for that. And if they can take it into the game now, Diana, who, unless you're directly onto one of these very primary carries, probably doesn't have the damage to rip through an entire team, especially if it's like Renekton you're interacting with, and a Lucian that doesn't have the range to compete with the Jinx in the late game.
Interesting lock-in there. I was expecting to see more of a front line built up to try and defend this Jinx. Instead, they're going over towards the Lulu. You do get some protection in terms of the ultimate as well as the help picks. You can get the shield on. It does provide a little bit of bonus damage on top of that.
intriguing back and forth between these two teams. Blitzcrank would be a fun pick for Chime, just because, again, you think about what he can do with champions like Thresh and like Bard that are typically roaming champions, and now you get the option of going for something very aggressive to punish the positioning of both. Ways to punish. I mean, last time, a couple of times we've seen. This is Chime just saying, I am better. I'm going to hit hooks all the time, and you had better be very, very careful with that positioning, because otherwise you're getting pulled again and again, and Stixxay is going to be up multiple kills by the end of the lane phase.
And that was kind of one of the terrifying things when looking into the draft of No Team and Jashuka specifically, is that he does enjoy playing those enchanters much more. He doesn't like playing those tanky champions, tanky engagers as much. So grabbing a Blitzcrank like this, it was something you could have foreseen in the playbook coming out of Golden Guardians Academy, and it is definitely a test to see how this is going to play out.
It truly is. Both sides of this matchup have come into what I see from No Team, at least, is that they've got earlier game for like the Jarvan to be able to attack, but they've got very scaling on the bottom side of the map, which means that like Dragoon could absorb some, but he also just in general can be more of a soak towards the Gwen, trying to make sure that that doesn't go crazy in the earlier. Golden Guardian are much more aggressive bottom side of the map. They've got the Lucian mid lane, which is one of the first that we've seen. It's been on the map, but Aphelios in the bottom lane alongside the Blitzcrank just means that they can take advantage of this bottom side where the Victor and the Jinx are wanting to scale a little bit more. But again, it's me, not about the laning phase here for NFT. It feels to me very heavily like Griffin does have some like kind of stuff to do when it comes to making sure that the bottom side is going to feel safe and feel comfortable. But if they get into like the 25-30 minute mark and they aren't down like 8,000, 10,000 gold, whatever the system may be, you think about what a Jarvan and Lulu combined is, for a Victor and for a setup, especially against some of the other members when you don't have this fantastic front line that GGA aren't rocking right now. There's significant problems that could come about. No Team might actually have a chance at really stepping up in this game to kick the team fighting phase very heavily over top of their opponent.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching the 15-year-old Griffin, seeing what he can do on the map, because J4 has some good early influence he can really bring there. I'm not too sure how the duo roam is going to work out if Jashuka does free out from lane, and how J4 would roam around with the Lulu. Typically, you grab the J4. He works well when he has a partner he can work with, almost having a dive buddy. Those tools, worthwhile for No Team to really have here. But I will definitely be looking for them to step up the momentum, for them to step up the tempo. When mid-game comes, there's a lot that can come online for Golden Guardians Academy if they are able to have some type of lead.
For the side of Golden Guardians also, I mean, you look at their mid jungle, and that's one of the most powerful early duos in terms of damage that you can have. Level 6 for Iconic, level 6 for Ryoma. They have to have so much control around the middle parts of the map. You combine that with Chime, his propensity already to go roaming about the map and try to make an impact inside of lanes. You combine that with, like, this power, it's dangerous for base. We've seen a couple. They've got some experience. Insanity and Elma have received those resources. It's going to happen.
So we do got to give a quick shout out to our sponsors before we head into this match right now, and that is going to be the Unified Premier Proving Ground Circuit sorry, I misread that one. Let me throw that one again. It is going to be the UPL. Do you want to compete in more amateur esports at the highest level in North America? Unified Premier is the place to be this spring. With 3 seasons annually and over $27,000 in prizing, this spring amateur and collegiate League of Legends and Valorant teams are all invited to apply now through January 24th at midnight. Start or continue your own path to pro by heading over to unified.gg/organization/application and have a chance to compete in Unified Premier's biggest season yet. And for those of you looking to dive into the esports world, Unified Community is a great place for you to jump in and compete. With $4,000 in prizing each month, our Platinum League, Gold League, and ARAM Leagues are all available for you to sign up monthly at unified.gg/c and filter it by community games. All right, always excited for what happens. What's happening outside all over North American Amateur, Dean. But now we got to focus on this tournament right here, Golden Guardians Academy, looking to do battle with No Team.
It's very often that you get to see players like Blaze, Dragoon, Scooped, Jashuga, even players like Griffin, if they weren't to step directly into Proving Grounds inside of what is the Unified Premier League. So that's like the best place that you can go scouting to see these players before they end up on the big stages like this, right? This is where we got our first kind of glimpses at a number of players. Even Shadi came directly from there as well. And you can see they're playing an entire early game around this Blitzcrank on its own, walking into the enemy jungle, hoping to maybe entrance.
And going on with what you said about the UPL, I mean, ever since I started casting, the UPL has been here. A lot of Oryx have come and gone. It's an established place. It's a great place to be. If you want to start building up your esports legacy, you want to start building up your career. As you said, a lot of the players who are playing right now came from that. And getting into the match here today, a little bit of an attempted invade there with the Blitzcrank chime. Was kind of hoping for more. You're always getting excited whenever you see that Blitzcrank come in and the grabby hands look for whatever victim they can get. Not going to be the case here. Going to have a standard start.
Yeah, I'm too crazy about that one. It's just getting to test some of that early game ability to just catch somebody off guard. If it not as enough to that wall to be able to get picked off, which I think was their primary target, and then they just took a cheap shot into the tri brush, happen to snag somebody. You're not usually warding into that Baron pit in the early stage of the game. It doesn't give you like the Blitzcrank, however, is going to be a lot more this map, especially going after this Lulu and Jinx.
It's one of those terrifying things if Chime ever takes a recall. Even if it's in your solo queue games, if a Blitzcrank takes a recall, the panic starts to set in, right? You're hoping you have that vision established. Well, before you just see a rocket grab come out from the shadows.
Like I said, previous iterations of this kind of thing, this pick-off potential onto Jashuna, even previous matchup between versus Zillion, if I remember the actual up during the game. I could actually be wrong about that. I seem to remember it was being a Zillion on Jizuka's side and Thresh having some really impactful stuff. And you can find some disgusting hooks, some incredible stuff. And so we're not only trying to enable their bottom side, which has been one of the more powerful bot lanes in general, but also just one of the most powerful team, but also deny No Team a bit of their later game, just making sure.
So Griffin pathing towards the top end of the map now. Before Scuttle even comes down, he's going to go for a gank. Flashes forward, not using the Flag and Drag yet, but look at the return of damage coming out of Tony Top. Flag and Drag is not even going to find the knock-up on the Tony Top. There's no flash available, but he doesn't need it. He will just get right under that tower. Gank unsuccessful.
Oh my goodness. I spoke about this to you a little bit before, which is that Tony Top has taken a lot more of a different look in terms of top lane. He was never really, at least in my mind, a great blue side top laner just because he had this really unique pool. And so far, the defensive play out of some of the more blind type top lane picks has been really incredible. In fact, actually, it was a Gwen play in their last series again. That was a really big kind of takeaway from No Team, where they were looking to dive him under the tower. He was the Gwen. He ended up costing somebody their life in a trade in a one-on-one right there, showing off some of the skills. No flash, Ness burnt the ignite, pushed off Dragoon, making sure that those two weren't able to capitalize on that gank tops.
Nice for Tony Top, able to stay alive. And great pressure to be applied onto Dragoon. Almost taking the first blood for himself in the exchange. Now the reset coming out for Tony Top and Dragoon. No teleport available for Tony Top. Dragoon choosing to just walk back to lane.
Yeah, it's the teleport usage in the earlier laning phase now, especially because it's not unlocked until 14 minutes, isn't as impactful, so it's not as big of a burn here. Chime gets to roam around a bit. They've done a good job defending Iconic because he's gone for some of the Rift Scuttlers. They're not as valuable as they were, but there's still camps to take away. They're just exerting some of the earlier pressure. You've shown for quite a bit of lane control. You're able to move this Blitzcrank pretty quickly inside of this game as well, which has worked out. They're even stopping Blazes back to force him to stay a little bit longer. Chime could even kind of infringe upon this because they kind of know.
Oh no! Oh, they're going for it. They're going for it. Chime, rocket grab waited to come up. He doesn't even go for it. Just flash with the punch. First blood going over to Ryoma, but the action's not done yet. Some going over on the top side. They repeat that gank on the Tony, and they're able to find it.
Okay. able to get something back and forth between the two teams, but thankfully able to trade back, finally finding a little bit of aggression, making sure that this Renekton matchup is going to feel great in the earlier stages, making sure the Renekton's not going to fall behind. If the champion gets behind the Gwen, you definitely are not feeling good about that one. So hopefully getting a little bit of gold into his pockets, and more importantly, into Griffin's pockets to help him out in the earlier stages of the game. The opposite side of that is, like, of course, the mid lane play that came out from the Lucian that, of course, led to the death of Blaze. And this allows the Lucian to take so much more control of the mid wave, so much more control of the early game match. This is just going to put him into a further hole, as this is, again, exploitation of the Blitzcrank. Oh, poor Blaze. I like barely didn't, because my stream was a little bit off right there. They're going for it again in mid lane between these two. Level 6 is here.
Oh, the calling comes out so low. Yeah, Blaze, I'm sorry. You're not surviving this one. Ryoma able to take another one in the mid lane. An instant reaction out of No Team. This is what we're getting out of them. The moment they make a play, No Team makes one of their own. This time it's going to be for the Drake.
Yeah, it's Golden Guardians who are adapting to what happened in the previous iteration of this, like, versus match between these, which is that Blaze was able to scale up and actually become a menace. This time they say, we're putting Lucian in the mid lane. We're almost going to put one against you. We're going to put the Blitz lane to make sure that you are never comfortable down as the game continues. We're not as much focused on the bottom side. Instead, it is the roaming from the Blitzcrank and the amount that they're able to stockpile onto the Blaze that they're going to try to capitalize on. Thankfully, No Team, again, they realize, we take dragons, we are able to stall the game a little bit longer. Every single one of those you take is another 5 minutes you add on to the pool, where Blaze gets to farm up a little bit more. More importantly now, I guess Scoop gets to farm a little bit more to try him into the later game stages of this this versus match against this Golden Guardian squad.
That is so terrifying, Rebel. Just, he knew Chime was there for the longest time. Just, it's kind of like the Jaws theme playing in your head. The tension, the anxiety is always there. And, of course, Chime, an expert at this Blitzcrank, one of the best rules is, like, the best hook is the one you don't throw. He just flashes forward with the Power Fist. Gets the punch, gets the kill. And he's pretty much unlocked from lane, constantly trying to roam out, getting control over this river, and always putting that question in the back of Blaze's mind.
Yeah, they're making sure that there's at least enough of a push on the bottom side with this, if there's nothing crazy. And again, I feel like Juka has to be careful, not only in that positioning, but just in general in the laning phase, because, they step up really heavily to push up against the Blitzcrank, and maybe there's play to be had where, the champions legitimate damage into Shuka's laning phase, and at this point they don't want that. So they're playing a little bit more on the back foot, trying to play for later in the game because they don't have that guaranteed play of Blaze, who he's just getting gunned down every single opportunity possible. Ryoma not letting him sit for a single second.
Yeah. That early pressure applied is amounting to a lot for Golden Guardians Academy's mid laner. Ryoma is applying the pressure. That is the third death for No Team. 8 minutes into this game as well, it's off to the races for Ryoma. He's going to take a back right now, see what he's able to purchase off that recall.
It's going to be too easy for him to continue to just exploit this matchup, man. Chime he's feeding for the hooks as much as possible, but right now the Golden Guardians are set up for what is a very menacing kind of mid-game here, where they've got the setup necessary to take Rift Herald up if they need to, especially if they're able to move their bottom lane or move Chime at minimum. They've got enough wave control with the Aphelios on his own right to be able to capture, like, bot lane and not allow for Jajuka and Scoop necessarily to move. You can kind of see Chime is posturing that direction now, and with a powerful and with Iconic as farmed as he is at this moment, it feels like this is not something that No Team can really contest unless they have more people there right now. Jazuka's even going to get spotted out on the Scuttle Crab because they've got that vision control on the bottom side of the map. Nobody's going for Rift Herald. They just kind of stop that attempt, and Chime's going to catch them as well, which means after the wave is caught from Stixay is going to be able to head back to the top side of the map and redeploy into the Rift Herald pit. It's currently getting taken by 2 members here, but that might be enough. No Team might have been able to sneak this one out from the Golden Guardian side. I was hoping they would fight for it with this powerful mid-jungle combo, but they are just a little bit slow on the draw. Unfortunately, their top side is just not enough.
It looked like that trigger was really based upon if that rocket grab was going to land on Jajuka or Scooped. Reading it, thanks to that movement, getting a brief glimpse of where Chime was moving, anticipated the rocket grab. But that is the threat right there. Chime has been able to walk from lane to lane, constantly put pressure onto that river, onto the mid lane, onto the bot lane. And that pressure is devastating if you're Scoop right now, who's getting pushed far away from his turret, 20 CS down.
You can even see mid lane's already feeling the effect with like a 35 CS deficit. Now bottom lane's going to be feeling that effect. Golden Guardians give up the Rift Herald, but they just don't want to trade any map pressure, right? If no team forces you up the top side and you ruin some of your lane states and give gold back, that's not ideal. This is pretty good positioning. Actually, Blaze is able to trade quite a bit back onto Ryoma. He doesn't quite have a completed item, and especially no no sustain whatsoever outside of anything else. Chime, just leave him be, man. Tell you, does this become and the ultimate's back up.
Death number 4, 10 minutes in. Blaze is abused. Absolutely abused in this lane matchup. Ryoma and Chime have this guy's number. The Blitzcrank threat is always there, and Ryoma, if the Blitzcrank doesn't take you, Ryoma's going to gun you down either way. Now, here comes Chime coming down towards the bot lane. Tries to grab Jashuka, can't seem to get him. Iconic Skank. Moderately successful, does burn the flash of Jashuka in the process.
You can also see there with like a Rift Herald drop as a response to the mid lane play, but they can't get it down. The first there from Iconic. The real safe place you can throw is top lane, where Tony Top currently going after an Ignite Staff to kill him, but it's going to force him out of lane. This is the only place you could feasibly drop Rift Herald if you're Griffin, right? But you just gold into your Renekton. You want it into your Victor, or more specifically, you want it into your Jinx, because she's the only person well enough to really have any sort of fight. This is why I guess they want to maintain their position on the map, so they don't give up Rift Herald. And now their challenge is go to bot lane and try to drop it, see what happens. Go to mid lane, try to drop it, see what happens. Or go to top lane and drop it and get basically no actual effect in this game, because there's nothing going into the pockets of the people that matter in the later game team fight. This is Golden Guardians clamping off every avenue that no team's going to have to get back into this game.
There's no real win condition going the way of no team in this game so far, as Griffin starts to head over towards the Hex Drake. Gonna leash it for the time being, but Chime is watching him very closely. They do have some priority over in the bot lane finally, just from Chime not being there, pushing in Stixay. Can free up Jashuka and Scooped, but it is still a very risky gambit to try and contest any fight with Golden Guardians Academy, and just how spot on they've been with maneuvering their composition. They've been with maneuvering their members. And now, just going to run that right around the Dragon Pin and be able to grab the Hex Drake for themselves.
With how absurdly powerful Ryoma is, this is kind of the mid-game swap that I was looking for from Golden Guardians, where at the beginning parts of the game, you're okay giving up like a dragon, you're okay giving up a bit of pressure on the opposite side of the map, as long as you get 1 or 2 people significantly enough ahead to just absolutely command things. 4 kills in, Ryoma feels like he commands things. Iconic also, and you look at him, he's up 20 farm right now inside of the jungle, 25 farm, whatever that might be, with a completed item. This is the mid-jungle, like, kind of dominance that we were expecting from them in the earlier parts of the lane. And now if those 2 champions are inside of a fight, even against Griffin, who has, decent tank stats, against Dragoon, probably can't outright kill them with 1 combo, but they're strong enough to win fights pretty handily inside of pretty much any skirmish that you would look for at all against no team. So now no team, they struggle to find any breathing room anywhere. Their laning phase isn't going particularly well. They aren't farming ridiculously well. Blaze continues just to get run down.
Wow.
Like,
Ryoma, complete beast mode over in this mid lane, and a fight breaking out over in the bot lane as Rift Herald finally placed. There down goes the Cataclysm, as jumping forward is going to be Iconic. He will take down Griffin in the process. The rockets are coming in, as Scooped is able to get a good amount of damage on, but running low on mana will not have that rocket form for much longer. Also down a man, going to choose to back out instead. It's going to be another kill going over to Golden Guardians Academy. Not too much accomplished with that Rift Herald. As Iconic starts to walk in, he's looking for more. And will the hook land? Answer is going to be yes. They're looking for the entire bot lane, though. As Iconic dives towards Scoop, jumps back towards Jashuka. Gets the kill there. Scoop going to be able to live, but watches the support go bye-bye. That's going to be 2 down for no team.
And you can see this is a play of desperation. It's not necessarily a hoarded play from no team. I think if you get those plates onto Scooped, even if you lose the 1 kill, maybe you're okay with that, especially if the kill goes on to like Blitzcrank or something. But in this case, the kill goes over to Iconic, you get the plates, yes, you lose an additional member, and you lost your mid laner, all exclusively for that bottom side play. That is reaching. No team is trying to get back into this game somehow by putting gold where it needs to go, but that right there was giving up too much in exchange for it. They're now down 5k to this matchup. You're 5 kills below from this Lucian, who just gets to do anything. Mid tower's already down. That was first tower taken, and that was Ryoma pretty much taking it basically on his own. This Lucian is disgusting at this point in the game. The Diana is going to be disgusting. As soon as she finishes Sword Shoes, she can pretty much one-tap anyone on the map. All of a sudden, no team are in just complete turtle mode. There is not much else for this team to accomplish. And ideally, you really never want to be quite in that state. I'm not going to put it on anyone. No team really, they just haven't had any avenues. Golden Guardians came in with the strategy, we're shutting out Blaze and we're not letting you do anything else, and it has worked out perfectly for them.
This is where it gets disgusting. They're trying to transfer a lot of that dominance over towards the top side. Dragoon hasn't fallen too far behind, but there's the Cataclysm, timed poorly, as Griffin will get not much but a calling to the rest of his squad. Ryoma able to walk away.
3 members to 1 can't find a proper engagement. Now Dragoon gets his opportunity to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, but getting locked up, the CC is there, and so is the damage. A kill over on the top side as Tony Top's able to grab it. Still going to be a turret taken, a bot side for no team, but it feels like you're just doing silver linings now.
Yeah, it's an objective bounty at least, so there's a bit of gold back and forth between that. It was split onto 3 members, which I think was kind of unfortunate. The problem is they needed all 3 to make sure that Ryoma couldn't challenge, because if you try to just give it to Scoop and the other 2 hover too close, you're going to trade it anyway, and if you're too far back, then he just walks up and he pushes Scoop off of it, so you just don't get it in exchange. So it's gold and objective bounty traded onto 3 members for a kill, and also an entire tower traded on Tony Top. And Tony Top is one of the late game members of the team fight that can actually take it to no team. It's been fantastic. That is a... Wow. No way he gets out, right? No way. No way.
Sticks egg. Questionable spot to be, but you can see the damage. The damage potential is there. Able to get a good chunk back in, but got to watch that spot. You can't be too alone. The river and the enemy jungle as well, as Chime puts some threat forward. Dang you. Dare you grab my ADC. Chases him off, gets him away from the river, gets map control back.
Denies backs, at least a little bit here. No team is, again, trying to find a place on the map they can actually look for a strike is a little bit daunting, just because, again, you look at lanes, and, I mean, the Lucian's down an entire item right now. It's not even a joke to say, like, oh, he's down, like, 3,000 gold. It's, like, almost a 9. He's literally down an entire Essence Reaver right now over top of what his opposition has. You can't lane against that. Even Dragoon would probably have time, like, a really tough time laning against just how powerful that Ryoma is right now inside of this game. Combine this with Chime, who's just everywhere, making sure that life is miserable. And you can see the best response that's held by no team.
Chime able to get the rocket grab. Iconic can't get into position in time. Now Dragoon gonna play some defense. We'll be able to stun up Iconic, get some damage back to him, knock him to about half health. Death Rocket comes in. Iconic will fall. No team are able to catch a little bit of hubris here, and they're going to continue as the Cataclysm Flash comes in from Griffin, able to get the knock-up to Shuke with the ultimate, and now they're just going to clean house here, catching the misstep of Golden Guardians Academy, coming up big as they're able to grab 3.
I was taken a little back because I wasn't expecting that kind of a play. Ryoma is just going to one-shot Jizuka. He got polymorphed!
Ooh, he's not able to get him. Able to dash forward. Dashes up to the other side now, going after Griffin. Here comes the calling. Teleport going to come through. Scoop has to back out because here comes Tony Top on the Gwen. Pops the ultimate. Gets a good bunch of chip damage onto Griffin. Instantly starts to back off, seeing Blaze joining the fight as well. Pressure is there as no team begin to take this Drake and be able to claim it. Second Drake going into their name.
I was taken really aback by the fact that Chime went really aggressively for the hook, but then there was no follow-up behind it. I don't know if it's just like a lack of communication of what is intended to happen there, but Iconic was so late to that, it ended up putting him in a really bad position. What I was about to say was, like, no team has taken to the strategy of literally just putting the Jarvan into the duo lane. So it's now a trio lane, making sure that Scoop is defended at all times and able to infringe upon anywhere in the map, right? If you've got 2 full members, maybe that's your response here. Chime's gonna Hex Flash to try to look for an E. He couldn't quite find it. There it is.
Just needs to punch. Get the punch. That's all you really need. Iconic can do the rest. Is able to clear up Jashuka right off the map. Let's take a look at what happened over with that dragon fight.
Yeah, this was the play to start with. And again, look how far back Iconic is. He's able to bounce off the Raptor and then look for a little bit more here. But I feel like without Ryoma, this fight, especially when you run into the Renekton, it's just completely lost. And you can see there's the 3-person. The Jinx is still a little further out because you just like hanging back a little bit more. Griffin actually goes for an incredibly aggressive Cataclysm here, especially with no range damage. But the Lulu ultimate is what keeps them in place long enough. And they're able to capitalize on this very, very well. Off the back of just like a roaming death squad, right? you're putting as many members as possible around this Jinx to make sure she's able to do as she pleases, hopefully pull some gold back. The fact that Ryoma slipped in not only to get to the Lulu, but also back around the EQ, kind of incredible. Get this guy into like Academy or even LCS level play, right? Like look how incredible he is in mid lane.
And it's so frustrating for Griffin as well, but gotta hold that thought because more frustration coming Griffin's way as he gets pulled in and destroyed. Styx able to grab that kill as the calling goes off onto the back line, going after Jashuka. He will be the next one to fall. Ryoma claiming that one, going golden for a little bit. It's going to be a double kill going over to Ryoma as he's able to clean up 3 members, leaving no team with just 2 to defend. Looks like it's Baron time for Golden Guardians Academy.
The damage chart tells literally everything about this game. Look how much was dealt by Ryoma during that fight. I'm pretty sure he killed Griffin as the Cataclysm landed. The ultimate was the only thing that the Jarvan got off in that fight, and then immediately died. Like, how do you deal with that? This is supposed to be your front line. This is supposed to be your engage. He's dying before he even arrives close enough to accomplish anything. He can't even press his Gourd Raker because he's just getting killed so quickly by Ryoma, who just continues through the fight, and no one's got the damage to challenge him. That Baron buff is going to seal so much because there's still towers on the map, but I think they can even break the base with this. They've got a composition that is able to dive underneath the towers. They've got enough kind of like one singular target engage to work with that like there's not enough wave clear here. Blaze isn't on set 2 items. There's not a second item for Scoop quite yet. They're not going to be able to push them completely off. I want to see a lot of damage done with this Baron buff just because I feel like it would be enough of a death blow that no team has no way back in.
I can see the frustration on Griffin every time he goes after Ryoma, because you're not just dealing with the relentless pursuit, you're dealing with the Gale Force. There's so much mobility on this Lucian right now to bob and weave a lot of these fights, and Griffin cannot lock him down. Now he's getting locked down in the process as Tony Top comes into the jungle. Flag and drag over the wall, doesn't even want to challenge it as Golden Guardians Academy starts setting up towards the bot lane siege.
Absolutely menacing. You can see the damage differences, not only Ryoma, but also Tony Top, which is, to me, it speaks a little bit about Golden Guardians, just their ability of bot lane to do quite a bit in the earlier phases of the tournament. We've seen a number of times, but you know how good the Tony can be, and we know how amazing Ryoma is from their time, both in Academy and also in LCS, in Ryoma's case, throughout the last couple of years. They're incredible solo laners. They also just happen to have a really, really good bot lane as well. This is a team that has legitimate danger to it, and once again, I mean, that was just a pull. This is the composition that you've been looking for the entire time. This is Blitzcrank, pull, immediate death. There's nothing that you can do there. Now no Lulu. They literally aren't even defending this. There's no way to do it. Maybe they can defend their Nexus towers. That's probably what they're going to be banking on, but...
That's the threat that Chime always has. When you're this far ahead, when you have this much of a lead that's almost 10k, Blitzcrank, you stay out of that rocket grab range. As now a tower is going to go down, inhibitor goes down, another inhibitor tower, another inhibitor going down. Golden Guardians Academy, seems like this might be the victory march now as a Hex flash forward time, looking to grab whoever he sees fit. Might go after Dragoon on this one. As they dance around, here comes the engaged. Dominus going to be popped as well as the Cataclysm. There is the grab, going for the back line, looking to try and get the ADC of Scoop. He will be able to back up, but the front line for No Team is dismantled by Golden Guardians Academy. The bot lane of No Team can only watch in horror as their base will go up in flames. Only losing Ryoma in the process. Golden Guardians Academy, game number 1, it's in their hands.
That is a 23-minute stomping by Golden Guardians Academy. They came out with a composition designed to ruin the day of No Team, and game 1 was ruined in very convincing fashion. I can assure you Blaze had no fun in that game. I can assure you that. I don't need to talk to him. I don't need to see his player cam. Don't need to ask anybody a question. That was a no-fun game for poor Blaze because he got pulled. It felt like Blitzcrank Flash was just his cooldown flash. As soon as the Blitzcrank Flash, his was off cooldown because he had to use it to get out of the way. It was a strategy concocted from the combination of what happened in their previous iteration. Golden Guardians much smarter with the approach to this game. The bottom side they just left alone. They didn't gank to the bottom side a bunch. They didn't put a bunch of defense towards it. They just said, we'll just win everywhere else on the map, and they did, and they won very quickly.
Yeah, that was a commanding game, to say the least, out of Golden Guardians Academy. They are very skilled players, and you can tell they had a game plan and they executed it. We talked about Stixay being a consistent ADC. While he was consistently able to play safe to allow Chime to just roam out and cause all that havoc across the map. Once No Team fell too far behind, their composition wouldn't let them back in. They need some sort of gold lead to be amassed sometime in the early game, sometime in the mid game. That condition was not met, and Golden Guardians, they just ran through them, man.
They really did. this is a suggestion for every team, but also specifically no team. If you want a chance in this next game, you got to make sure Chime can't roam. Like, even in games where they like lose, sometimes Chime is still roaming and going crazy. If you want to have a chance at all, you got to make sure that Blaze is going to be comfortable, but you got to make sure that Chime isn't having an impact, because he can win every single lane for you basically on his own right. Either find a way to attack Stix A and keep Chime on the bottom side a lot more, or find something that can roam, alongside him. Get something that's going to be able to actually match it. But right now, the way that game played out was so dominant, it felt really bad for no team. This isn't really indicative of the no team we've seen most of the tournament. I'm kind of really hopeful for them to come back in game 2 with something a lot more competitive, because that right there was about as clean a game from Golden Guardians as we ever could have wanted.
All right, we're going to take a moment to take a break and throw it over to our analyst to break down this game more. But first, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, and that is going to be Skulls. Looking to upgrade your gamer gear? Look no further. Start off your 2022 off right with official unified esports merchandise brought to you by Skulls. Hoodies, joggers, jerseys, armbands, and a lot more coming soon. You have the still, now get the swag. Skulls.com/collections/unified has everything you need. Gear up, game on, Skulls. We're going to throw it over to break. We'll be right back.
my mom watches. All right, welcome back to the desk. Golden Guardians are up 1-0 against No Team in this quarterfinals match. Let's get right into the draft. I know we can get a graphic here pulled up in a moment, and just get started right there. Thoughts, Hawk? Let's get into this draft.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so I want to start off. I said 2-1.
There's still hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you feeling about that?
Hopium in my system, but draft was very interesting because Golden Guardians first picked Diana and then 3 winning lanes and won the game. I mean, it was pretty simple. This was not a meta draft at all. First pick Diana is not something I would have had on my radar. Flex pick Lucian mid, not exactly, a meta pick either. But they managed to pull it off. The Blitzcrank as well into the Lulu is something that teams have been favoring. It was basically an ego draft, and I respect it. In game number 1 of the series, you can afford to lose 1, and if you think you're the better team, if you think that you can skill check the opposition, I think these picks make a lot of sense. In Golden Guardians Academy, they just did exactly that and made a show of it.
Yeah, and the thing is, we thought going into the draft, we're like, okay, well, GGA actually have gone with the worst draft. Like for No Team, this is good, right? Because GGA have picked, obviously, like you said, 3 winning lanes with the Diana. The Diana Blitzcrank combo really doesn't work. Blitzcrank, I think, in this game gets really hard outscaled because in an ideal game, there's a point where Jarvan and Renekton, it's kind of like impossible for Blitzcrank to play the game because they kind of just like walk up forward. And it's going to be really, really hard for Diana to get onto the back line without a dive buddy, assuming that No Team don't get rolled early game. We said going into the game after draft that if No Team make it through the first 10 minutes, they'd probably be okay. Unfortunately, they did not make it through the first 10 minutes of this game. Heading into the first replay here, basically Griffin decides, okay, our game plan in this game is we're going to go top and we're going to try to get Dragoon head, right? And as you can see, he comes in here for this gank, and this looks really good. It's a great setup, super clean here. A very good play here to flash W as well instead to make sure it doesn't get immune. But then just a weird, almost inexplicable misplay here from Griffin means that he kind of flag and drags in place, and they don't get the kill here. And this is actually really bad for the rest of the game. I'm going to use tempo, even though it's kind of a dirty word, right? But it kind of ruined the game plan early on for No Team because ideally they want to get that kill, they want to get Dragoon rolling, and then that allows Griffin to sort of get back onto the map and do things and help out in the mid lane in a particular spot because, he decides instead, okay, I got to go back top, I got to do damage control, we've got to get the kill back. And while they do get the kill, disaster unfolds mid lane, right?
Yeah, disaster unfolds mid lane indeed. I feel like it's almost a classic mistake that a lot of teams make is if the game plan doesn't go according to plan, they try to make up for it. However, they don't go to counter the play that their opponents want to make. As 4 minutes into the game, Chime makes an appearance in the mid lane on the stacking wave. Blaze is seeing all those juicy little minions dying to the tower, thinks he has to defend them, but there's a Blitzcrank behind you, beautifully played by Chime, tanks up the towers to avoid any damage going down onto Ryoma, and they find first blood, and from there, it was all downhill. We clocked it at 10 minutes, Blaze had 3 deaths and was down 33 CS at 10 minutes. He also proceeded to die a 4th time at 10:20, so basically 4 deaths in 10 minutes at this game. That is brutal. And Golden Guardians just proceeded to run over the map from there because as you were talking about, Manny, yeah, the game plan to go top sort of works out for the side of No Team. They do manage to get a kill up there, but there's just no win condition up there anymore when your mid lane is getting dumpstered that hard. And I just got to say, I feel like if a Blitzcrank is diving your mid lane tier 2 tower almost at 4 minutes, that is a breakdown in map control.
Yeah, and I just can't overemphasize as well how unfortunate it was that top lane gank didn't work out because ideally that happens, Griffin's able to roll back mid and potentially negate that dive or turn it around, right? Or at least discourage it, right? And then we might be talking about a different story here, right? Because Ryoma definitely played very well in that game. It's just not guaranteed that happens here. And it's just the fact that Griffin had to go top again really just kind of broke the game wide open for GGA.
Yeah, and this sort of plays into one of the stats that I actually had coming into the day, which was that Ryoma gets the second most gold share on his entire team out of any of the mid laners in the tournament, in the group stage. So out of the 16 mids in the group stage, Ryoma got the second highest gold share out of all of them. Meanwhile, Blaze has the lowest out of all 16 mid laners that were in the group stage. So that means the team does not play around mid, no team that being, whereas Golden Guardians is very comfortable playing around mid, with Chime also having exceptionally high kill participation coming into the day. And I feel like we saw that on full display. Even though no team had a game plan top lane, they just completely abandoned Blaze in the mid lane. Yeah, could he have maybe avoided dying more after that play? Sure, but he is getting dove under his mid tower with like a double stacked wave at 4 minutes, and that is something that no team definitely is going to want to shore up. And I said that one of my players to watch was Blaze, whether or not he'd be able to match Ryoma. The answer game one was a resounding no.
Yeah, I mean, it is really rough, right? Because for Blaze, right, he did die a bunch, but the blame does not solely rest on him.
Exactly.
That matchup, like, once you get down 2 kills that early on, like, it's just not playable. You're going to die over and over again. Like, the way that we talked about in the pregame, you know, that no team likes to play out their games is Griffin, you know, likes to go to other lanes and, you know, get them ahead, get himself ahead. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that this game, and it resulted in just kind of a disaster in the middle of the map that they weren't able to recover from.
Yes, and Manny, at the start of this series, you did mention out of all the series to win, Golden Guardians has to win this one. The implications of them losing are too big to ignore. So it looks like you might be right on that one. But heading into game 2, what are our thoughts?
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because, you know, my player to watch coming in was Iconic, and, you know, he did a good job this game, right? He played Diana, his team was ahead, but they picked 3 winning lanes. All the lanes won. Hawk was saying it in between games. I believe Blaze was down 3 kills before Iconic actually had any kill participation. So, like, he really didn't have to do too much. Like, no team kind of did a lot of the job of shutting themselves down, I guess, by themselves. So for the next game, I'm just really, I hope no team kind of choose a different approach and execute on it better in terms of game plan.
Yeah, and to follow up on that real quick too, I feel like this sort of speaks to Golden Guardians Academy made a phenomenal adjustment between Open Qualifier now and seeing where their strength lied against no team. Because we were talking about how before in the game that they played, you know, they were ahead early, but no team actually played pretty well in the later stages of the game in the team fights, and they started to come back. And although Golden Guardians Academy won, it was maybe a little closer than they bargained for. So Golden Guardians said, screw the meta, screw what people have been doing with the late game scaling. We know we can just skill check you in lane, and that we can beat you early. And I would expect going into game number 2 for that to not change. I would expect less meta picks and more lane dominant picks to allow Golden Guardians just to smash across the board.
Yeah, and Manny, do you see any adjustments being made to draft here, or do you think they're just going to go for that full, like, bulldozer draft again?
I mean, it's just so difficult to predict, you know, obviously with this type of thing, because that's just such a demoralizing game to have on the team, on the coaching staff. Like, they just kind of picked a super disrespectful draft against you, right? If you're on the side of no team, and they ran you over right before the game even started. So it's really difficult to say whether or not they're going to try and, you know, run back a similar composition and just improve on their game plan, or if they're going to throw that out the window and try something completely different, because they're, you know, speaking from experience, when you lose like that in a competitive game, the game 2, it's just very hard to recover from sometimes.
Right. And
right.
Oh, sorry, real quick. The last thing I just wanted to follow up on that was that if you are no team, your game plan could still remain the same. If you survive 10 minutes, you could still win that game. So yeah, you got slammed in 1, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen in 2. So I'm excited to see if they're able to come back from that.
Yes, we will see if Golden Guardians Academy can close out the series 2-0, or if no team can bring the scoreline up to 1-1. We're going to send it back to our casters for the draft of Game 2. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone, to the casting desk. Thank you, Izzy, and thank you to our analyst. That game, I do want to echo something that Hawk said. A breakdown of map control. It couldn't be more true when Chime was able to move that freely.
Yeah, it was. You had given a very vivid way of describing it, which I'm not going to repeat because it's a little bit gruesome. But yeah, Blaze just kept taking punches, unfortunately, from the bottom lane before anything really had to come about. You know, it was at the point where, unfortunately, there was just no way for the Victor to recover. And again, when that's part of your late game scaling alongside the Jinx, and your Jinx isn't really ahead, the game is just a big struggle from that point on. They put it perfectly. The win conditions got closed out by 10, 15 minutes into the game. From there, you're just playing out a game that's unfortunately never going to go back into your favor.
And it makes me wonder how No Team are going to come into this game now, because as our analyst said, this was a lot of winning lanes, but it was also a little bit of a troll draft coming out of Golden Guardians Academy. And No Team were not able to get a foot on the map whatsoever. Sure, they had some effectiveness over towards the top side, but it's a Renekton. It's not really going to amount to much, and it didn't amount to much in the grand scheme of things.
They have to find somewhere that attacks, right? So Renekton, at least in my opinion, is not really a champion that you attack most of the time with your jungler in terms of the laning phase. And it was the same with Victor in the mid lane is more of a scaling pick. You don't really attack for it, or it doesn't really go for a bunch of solo kills unless unfortunately you're playing against a Corki for some reason. And then you have the Jinx Lulu on bottom side, which feels like a place that you can put resources if you need to, but it's not really designed necessarily to absorb a bunch of resources in the early game. I want to see No Team give Griffin somebody that can attack, but also somebody who is willing to get attacked in their earlier stages. All
right, so first bans are going to come in. LeBlanc, Gangplank removed off the map for Golden Guardians Academy. Just Corki for the time being. Getting into some of these champion pools, Blaze was hyped up, and I think rightfully so, even though he did have a pretty lackluster performance. A lot of that was due to other lane pressure coming into his lane. He didn't really get that chance to shine in his lane, but we have seen him shine before. Last year, some of the best performances we saw came off champions like Syndra or Orianna. He has shown that when he sticks to his guns on the control mages, he can have some very, very solid success. It was definitely a challenge to be facing Ryoma in this one.
He has a tendency to play champions that are a little bit more focused on making sure to stay in the laning phase and just play it out as best as possible. And he's really good at playing champions like that. Even when he's down in CS, usually he's capable of still having massive impact. That game was a very poor example of what he's capable of doing most of the time. Because a lot of times he doesn't walk out of the laning phase with 8 deaths or anything like that. That was a very different style of game for Blazes. So hopefully he's able to recover with something. The biggest thing in my book is that he doesn't play the Corki. He had one game on it and lost on it. And they've really shied away from the pick other than that, which feels like a champion that should be in his wheelhouse given what it's capable of doing and what kind of style he plays for.
So another lock-in for Golden Guardians Academy onto the Diana. It's something he did play a little bit in the open qualifiers. He's been more of a Xin-heavy player and a Viego-heavy player, but if it ain't broke, well, you don't got to fix it, and it worked really well in that game number one. Getting shades of that game one draft now is No Team locking Jinx.
Where's my Yasuo? I just want GGA to lock the Yasuo. If they really want to go ego draft, that's how they do it, is they go the Diana Yasuo as fast as possible. And on the other time, they're giving the Jinx away. That's relatively obvious. I like this more than the Renekton as well in the earlier stages. You're comfortable taking the Jinx into a lot of different champions. There isn't a bunch of just pure outright, I'm going to smash the Jinx lane type counters that exist. You pair it now with the Thresh as well. Not only a denial from Chime, but also just a good champion to pair with it for a nice solid laning phase. And now Golden Guardians have the choice of being okay, we can take something in one of our strong lanes, but now I feel like they just go to their bot side and they say, okay, what are you guys going to take? They can go back to Nautilus if they wanted to, or they go to Blitzcrank more specifically if they want the true lane matchup in the counter pick, and then take their preferred ADC. They also have the preference again towards this Renekton. This is something that Tony's been playing quite a bit. There's my Yasuo. Okay, this is another ego draft. Let's go.
This is the ego draft, yo.
Yes, sir.
All right, that getting locked in. Renekton getting taken by Tony Top. You were talking before, earlier before this game started, that Tony Top has been playing more, at least supportive when it comes to draft. Usually taking his pick a little bit earlier to save the counter picks for his later teammates.
Way back when, Tony Top was he was the quintessential counter pick top laner inside of Amateur and inside of even Academy to some extent, because he had some unique champions to his name. Jax is the one that comes to mind, and oftentimes even on blue side they would be trying to somehow get him a counter matchup in that top lane, right? This tournament specifically, in more recent light for Tony Top, he's been playing things a little bit more blind. Renekton, Gwen, Camille, things that he's good at, impact, don't get me wrong, but he didn't play all that often because he was tending to be a lot more of a lane-focused top laner and doing a lot more things like that. And so this is kind of a new direction that we've seen Tony step into, especially during this tournament specifically, towards the Renekton, which is not something he played a bunch. And on the opposite side, Griffin now taking a bit more of the carry mantle, grabs himself the Viego for the matchup up against the Diana. Interesting that Griffin willing to throw down the gauntlet. He doesn't want something that's going to push a bunch of pressure in the earlier stage of the game, instead wants to play for himself a little bit more.
And I can't help but to feel it almost puts Griffin into a feast or famine situation. Trying to say that term at least a little bit less often, but Griffin, he has been a player who's able to carry from his squad. If he's able to get the goal to carry, he will snowball that into a strong lead. But if you do put him down, it's much harder for him to recover. You know, he's still developing a lot of the talents that, you know, a lot of these upper end junglers do have when it comes to playing from behind. So it's an interesting gauntlet to see thrown down on the side of no team.
My curiosity also now comes to what is the bottom lane going to look like here from Golden Guardians, because you've already seen the Jinx and the Thresh get revealed here. They take away two kind of more enchantery type supports. The Rakan is a lot more engage focused, but it's more so for the roam. And then of course the Karma is something that Chime has played, because not only is he like an older, he's played enchanters before, but also it's something that also can have an impact across the map, and in team fighting it's just strong across the board. So they're really trying to pinch off Chime to the best of their abilities, and Blaze not being given any of these kind of specialty top or mid lane picks that could go diving like the Akali or like the Vex. The Galio is really intriguing to me. This doesn't feel like it fits Blaze's pool all that much. Again, he's more of the control mage player, not really the safety like blanket Galio player. And that hasn't been very big around the map for the most part anyhow. Oh my goodness.
I do like that lock-in right there. I did mention it on the previous draft that he has pulled out this Kalista once, at least this year throughout the open qualifiers and the circuit qualifiers, but it is getting locked in once again. This is massive ego coming out from Golden Guardians, Rebel.
This is like them leaning into everything that happened in game one and saying, okay, now we're not even going to have like an Aphelios to throw into the team fight. We're not going to have a Gwen to throw into the team fight. This is all about Ryoma's Yasuo getting a knock-up and going crazy. In the response, of course, finally we get Dragoon's Darius. Not banned out in this game. We get the crazy top lane matchup, the Renekton versus the Darius, two of the more aggressive top laners that we can get. This is kind of the exciting top lane matchup we wanted from game one. This is GJ throwing themselves in a little bit of an ego draft. Lots of AoE team fights put with a Yasuo up against the side of no team, who will put a lot of eggs into the scooped basket.
This right here, you know, if this is the final game of no team, this is the way to go out. I do appreciate this draft so much, because there's so much chaos that can really go down. Starting off with the top side, I do want to start evaluating more into that, because it's Dragoon versus Tony Top. We didn't really look to hype up this matchup because of the way Tony Top's been playing as of recently, but now with these specific champions, Darius and Renekton, we're bound to see a war.
And especially with, I mean, you got Yasuo, you've got Diana, you've got Renekton, and you've got Blitzcrank, and then a Kalista even is within accessible range for a Darius if you've got any sort of slow within the ability else cracking with exactly what you based inside of it. So it gives them somebody to attack. Darius can win those of his own volition if necessary, but also being for him is going to be a lot more valuable.
Now, how do you see Blaze's lane playing out? Yasuo versus Galio, it's something we don't see too often, especially in the current seasons. Usually trying to free up the Galio to be able to have much more of a global impact. But where exactly do you think the hero's entrance is going to start to come in? Where do you think Griffin's going to try and point Blaze to?
I think actually no team have two good lanes to go to me, actually, Griffin in the very early stages just needs to make sure that Blaze is not put so significantly behind Ryoma that he can't control his lane. Because there's a possibility, especially since Ryoma, very talented player, if he's well versed in this matchup, can demand attention. Otherwise, the problem is like the Yasuo will perma push in the Galio. The Galio will literally become an ultimate bot, and that's the only way you're going to be able to roam. And in an ideal world, you don't want to just be stuck to pressing your ult button on fights that might not be beneficial for you, especially when you have setups like the Kalista ultimate to throw in or a Diana ultimate to throw in after the engage already comes through. Instead, you want to be the ones pulling the trigger with this Galio into this comp to throw disarray into everybody else. So to me, at least, Griffin, first thing first, break out Blaze, then the two of them go attacking everywhere else. So in the earlier stages, that's where I want Griffin to go. That's what I want for happen to Blaze. Make sure that the Yasuo, who's kind of the linchpin of this whole GGA comp, doesn't get ahead, then start attacking for your powerful side lanes.
I'm definitely going to be watching closely on the bottom lane as well. Scooped and Shuka didn't have the performance they really needed to, given how long Stixxay was really isolated into that bottom lane. He is now on a much more aggressive champion if they do want to play aggro. Golden Guardians Academy playing much more aggro in the bottom lane. But I said it earlier at the start of this game. It was Hawk talking about the breakdown of map control. You need an establishment of map control, especially very early on when going against Chime, who doesn't like to stay in lane and who is still opting to play the split screen.
I feel as though this lane actually is the thing that Golden Guardians really put a lot more into. Previously, it was the Aphelios, and I was like, okay, we will set the Aphelios up to not die in the 2v1 situation, have a little bit more wave control. Then he's going to leave all the time. This feels like a bot lane that could either do that because of Kallista's ability to just dodge out on skill shots, especially if you boots rush and you have all the speed, but also they can just attack themselves on bottom side. The Blitzcrank is a known work against the Thresh because you can pull him from anywhere. If he goes to throw his hook and you're not in danger, Blitzcrank knows exactly where he's going to be standing in a couple of seconds, which makes things all the more problematic for Jashuka's positioning. The two of them have to be careful because while it is a powerful bottom lane that no team has that can scale into the later stages, absorb resources really well, the 2v2 doesn't look particularly enticing, right? Like if you leave them alone for too long, I feel as though Stixxay and Chime will come away with at least a kill during this laning phase alone. So for no team, they, to me, have to wait till mid-game, start attacking with their combination of champions, try to isolate all 5 members away from one another. And if they can do that, their fight looks well. Golden Guardians just want to fight as fast as possible. If they can have a 5v5 around the first Dragon or the first Rift Herald or anything, they will be more than happy to accept that.
All right. Match point here for Golden Guardians Academy versus No Team. No Team, again, was a team that kind of spontaneously popped up for this tournament. They've come a long way through those group stages to get to the bracket stage now as they stand against a Titan in Golden Guardians Academy as they make their way to the Rift right now. That game number 1, devastating for No Team. Golden Guardians looking to try and copy that, as they do have a very arrogant draft here, but a very confident one to say the least.
Something about teams like this that I always like to talk about is just that there will come a time, and I don't know whether that will be at the halfway point of this season or whether that will be after this first season and then into the summer season, where a team like No Team, they come out and they have players like Dragoon, Griffin, Blaze, Scoop, Jashuka, who are all very talented, and they get their first real display of some of this talent, and then teams look to pick them up, right? This could happen. The tragedy of this is that the team falls apart, and then a team like this potentially loses their points, and then all of a sudden, like, we have a little less competition. The benefit is a lot of these players get exposed to new organizations that can send them to even greater heights than what this organization might. I don't necessarily want that. Again, this isn't like me being like, oh yeah, I definitely want all these players to leave because I think they need to go on for better things, because this team is amazing the way that it is, right? But it is possible. That is at least something to consider as we go into the next split. Oh,
they're already throwing it down, Dean. They're already throwing it down, Dean. They want the action. They want the camera to be focused over in this top end, so they're just going to brawl.
I feel like right there was just a low-key moment where Dragoon was playing with the vision. He popped out, Tony Top saw him, and then he's just like, you're approaching me? He's like, I'm Renekton. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to walk in on me, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Dragoon!
Oh my god, Dragoon! He gets the bleed! He gets the first blood!
Savage. Absolute savagery from Dragoon. Level 1 bush shenanigans. Gets himself a positive trade. Proxies the wave. Says, you can't step up to this Tony Top. He even has the Ignite on Renekton to take this one-on-one trade. He broke that the shield as well, making sure that was going to come through. Everything was set up perfectly, and Dragoon just steps right back out. Tony... he wanted to access his wave somehow, but Dragoon just gets the better of him with the ultimate trade. The stun wasn't enough. And the flash here from Dragoon, I don't think Tony was ready for the amount of damage it did. The auto and the W cancel was disgusting. Dragoon pilots this champion with expertise. You don't see that often.
Oh! Failing the flash scoop! There's disaster going off all around the map right now. Chime is going to get the kill on the Scoop, who flashes in line with the rocket grab team. Oh, no.
Talk about expertise in the early game, just finding some aggression. Goodness gracious, Chime right back at it. Prediction come true. Worst case scenario, the 2v2 going wrong for Scoop and Jashuka on the bottom side. A kill already coming to fruition. Chime stepping down on the gas to start off this laning phase. Opposite sides of the map, opposite side kills.
And this is what you don't want to see if you're no team, because advantages coming from Golden Guardians Academy's bot lane means Chime starts to roam out and starts to be a menace towards the mid lane. Blaze is already having some level of PTSD as he starts just hovering around the tops of that river. Griffin going to be there as well. Now here comes the 2v2. Ryoma coming in, looking to get the knockup, tries to go to the side, Justice Punch goes off, gets the double knockup in the process, but Ryoma doesn't have too much health to deal with there. He will fall in the process as Chime tries to back up, but now backup has arrived in Iconic as he dives in, trying to get onto Blaze and Griffin. Can't get too much, though. Doesn't want to deal with the duo. And
again, it is all about making sure that your mid lane here from No Team is going to receive these resources and get them away from this Yasuo. It's fast. Going to be miserable. What a set of chains. They're actually finding a good amount of damage on a 6A. Thankfully, not going to be a kill right there, but that's enough pressure to push him out, especially right after the back. That's actually quite impactful. Tony Taco. I feel like we're just going to have permanent fighting all across the map. There's just nothing for us to accomplish. I just need to become second play-by-play. You just got to tag me out whenever you feel like you need a breath at some point.
That's right. We're going to continue the MMA analogy over here. This is Fight Club up in the top lane. Dragoon versus Tony Top in the red corner. In the blue corner, Tony Top trying to run away from the tower. Almost falls in the process. The bleed going off. Tony Top, you got to be careful about those dives, son.
I think he wanted a full combo. And I think with a full combo, there was legitimate potential that he kills Dragoon right there. But Dragoon being so far back underneath the tower, positioning well, combined with the fact that that Ignite set off the tower aggro way too quickly, I think Tony Top read that pretty well to know, okay, if I keep going, I die before I kill him, which is just good read on his behalf. So props to him being able to get out of that. But again, the 1v1 not looking very, very good for No Team at the moment, or my God, not looking good for Tony Top at the moment, as the misery that is the Darius in the top side has already made its influence felt.
Oh no, Jashuka walking into the wrong bush. Waiting there was Chime. The knockup comes in, he tries to flay them away. Now backup is going to arrive. Blaze and Griffin showing up, but Ryoma coming out of the mid lane. Going to make this a 3v3. Chooses to back off instead, not willing to risk their chances. Chime goes down.
Massive props right there. I think a really good rune choice also for Jashuka. That Glacial Augment is so much more disgusting when you're playing against somebody that like loses attack speed and the ability to auto attack when you're slowed as well as movement speed. So hitting Stixay with that was just completely detrimental. If Stixay doesn't get slowed down, I think he's able to get enough auto attacks where a Ren could put him within killing distance before the two show up, and eventually that play goes awry completely. But instead, No Team fully commit to that. Jashuka able to actually deny that with that good rune usage with the good flay, and then the play afterwards, of course, Griffin was already around with Blaze to make sure that this mid laner continues to be able to roam anytime he wants against Ryoma. This is a much better looking game plan from No Team as well. Their top lane is set up to succeed on its own. Their mid lane is getting enough resources where Blaze is able to do as he pleases in the mid side to start with, and that means they should be able to start playing towards this bottom lane or top lane, kind of depending on what they want to do on the map any minute now with this combination of those two champions.
And it's night and day for Blaze. This is why we said don't count this mid laner out just yet from that performance. It was so much of a tent being set up over in that mid lane. Now he's getting his own jungler to set up sort of a tent for him, as well as Jashuka roaming up towards that mid lane. So being 2 kills up right now, it's a good start for Blaze as he teleports back.
And I actually find it really interesting because it's Griffin who's taking a much more calculated approach to the game. One of the stats that I don't think a lot of people bring up is that Iconic actually has, I believe it's the lowest kill participation of any jungler in the tournament right now. This is not to say that he's a bad jungler, just that he's able to rely on his lanes to kind of operate themselves. When you've got Tony Top, Ryoma, and Stixay Chime, you're never really that concerned with getting out and ganking as much as possible in the early game, right? You could focus on a bit more farming. You can play champions like Diana, you can play champions like the Viego and things like that, because they're good enough to do things on their own. You've seen what Chime has been able to do across the map, but that means that Iconic isn't interacting as much in the early game. And so Griffin doesn't feel that need to do so. He plays this Viego, and he just has a little bit of pressure into the mid side, and that's been enough already, where the Viego is farmed up enough to keep up with the Diana, but his impact has been felt where now the Galio is feeling okay to start really putting on pressure to the rest of the map.
Now Griffin, headed over towards the spot side. We'll be able to claim this scuttle before Iconic gets towards the area. Also has some backup of Jashuka. Now walking towards this river, Iconic will meet with Griffin. Spots that the scuttle has been taken. Ryoma's still there, but he doesn't provide too much if this is going to be a 2v3. Going to back off instead. It's a bit of chip damage in, but not willing to commit to that fight.
Not quite. The Diana Yasuo, a formidable combo when they're put together like that in any combination. If you have a little bit of chip damage onto Blaze or onto Scooped or onto, my apologies, Jijuka in that situation, there is real potential that they could look for an engagement right there. If they're able to one-tap one or two of those members, they absolutely win the fight afterwards because they've got enough consistent damage. But they're all full health, nothing too crazy. The Rift Herald and the new objectives are the things that pique my interest the most. Because again, if you fight around the Rift Herald in a 5-on-5, 4-on-4, something like that, but you have Diana Yasuo, things get crazy. Things get really crazy for GGA. This is maybe how they are able to turn a fight. And you can see right now, I mean, Iconic can see this happening. Hover is there from Blazes. Nobody's there from bot side, but Jizuka is actually the first one heading up to top side. And they've got this, this Darius. See if they can put together enough. They cannot. They just don't have the lane pressure. Their bot lane moved up quick enough to actually catch mid-wave to make sure they had all 5 members readily available. Good stuff from No Team on that rotation, making sure to capture this Rift Herald. They also got first Dragon, so they're kind of mimicking what happened in the previous game. The difference is there's no massive early gold advantage for Golden Guardians. Haven't been able to capitalize as much on a lot of what's been going on. Ultimate onto the bottom wave, just making sure that Stixxay is not going to be able to get too much. I feel like that was a little wasted because they already got 2 plates, but one way or another, just making sure that nothing is going to come about as a dive on the bottom side. It's thwarted because the wave got cleared.
The top side control looking good for No Team so far. And this game number 2 looking good for No Team so far. State of the game almost 10 minutes into this. Slight deficit for GG Academy as No Team have had control. You talked about it earlier. The neutrals, they're able to grab the Rift Herald. They're able to grab first Drake. Let's see what else they're able to get here as Dragoon continues applying the pressure onto Tony Top. Hasn't really been able to have much backup to try and relieve some of that pressure. Now No Team are putting their attention towards the bot side. Griffin now down here. Puts down the stealth. Will be spotted out. And here comes the hero's entrance. Blaze looking to show up. Tries to get the taunt. Just going to miss it, but will land the Justice Punch. And the Rocket will find its mark as well. Iconic going to fall in this exchange as a punch. Able to get the knockup. Tries to push him away. Diego still diving faster and faster forward. And forward gets the double kill. Stixxay is going to fall in the process as No Team continue to dominate Golden Guardians Academy. 4 down on this bot lane dive. No Team are off to the races.
I can speak so much about everything that happened here, but the biggest thing I want you to really take away from this, watch how many knockups land for the side of Golden Guardians to help Ryoma get into this fight. First off, Blaze being able to take out in the immediate part. That's Iconic, not being able to use the ultimate. Look at that. Flash away, Scoop not able to get ulted onto. There's no knockup here at all for Ryoma to be able to press the ultimate. That's the game changer. That's what's supposed to be the pitch of this combination. There's 2 massive ultimates to set that up, and both of them get denied because No Team paying attention, knowing what they need to deny in that fight to make sure Ryoma's going to get stamped out. That sets their bot lane up. They get first tower on that bottom side to shut out their bottom side at least a little bit more. Dive under Dragoon's probably going to get just an instant kill right there. Yeah, very well played from Golden Guardians, as it seemed like a bit of like a tempo response. Their bottom side got pushed, so they went back up to top side, but still down over 3,000 gold and down the first, the Dragon of the game. Second Dragon of the game is available for them anytime they want from the side of No Team, and their Darius doing fine in the side lane. Everything is kind of coming together for No Team at the moment.
That was a beautiful shift of tempo altogether. I was just saying at the 10-minute mark, we were pretty much even in gold, a 3K lead going over to No Team as they start to put their presence over towards this top side. You still have Drake that's up. The Chem Drake over bottom side of the river. No Team not going to focus on that neutral for now. They want to start getting some of these outers. They want to take this top lane tower. The response is going to be late out of Golden Guardians Academy.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, they actually put the Darius in the long lane up against the Renekton, but they're not going to let this happen. Tony's going to be here, and the rest of the team's going to show up to try to deny this take. They've got so many members here.
Oh, and here comes the flank. Iconic. Chime able to show up. Griffin running on the far end, getting chased down by Stixxay. Stixxay able to land those spears, gets the rend, gets the kill. No Team on the top side, however, are getting melted as Jishuka tries to run away, but will get chased down by the Croc. Doesn't fall, just gets out of the queue in time, but another rend, another kill for Stixxay as Golden Guardians Academy are able to find some control.
That's No Team looking to try to punish with their bottom lane up the top side. They tried to reverse lane states just to make sure that they could grab yet another play and continue to put this Jinx further ahead inside of the game, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, well played from Jizuka to get at least one person executed as opposed to everybody else. But you can see the other side of the map. I mean, Dragoon's going to get the tower as a little bit, and again, in a long lane, they're cool with the Darius being there with the Renekton. You win that all day. That's so much space for the Darius to be able to shove in, and a lot of control that you'd have on that side of the map when it's pushed up if you've got the vision to defend him. Here, it is No Team thinking that they could get away with murder by just going immediately to top side, but they get punished heavily, although now it's Golden Guardians who might be in the same boat.
We're trying to run off. It's going to be Stixay. It's very tough to try and catch a Callista. Always hopping between those Ren's going to pop the ultimate and look for the re-engage. Ryoma shows up. Last breath going to be popped. Here comes the hero's entrance. Blaze cannot get there, but he finds the Justice Punch to take down Stixay. Now Griffin goes forward. Ryoma cannot get the knockback. The minion auto takes him down. Griffin kills Ryoma with an assist from the minions.
Oh my goodness, that last minion auto was so tragic to watch, just infringe upon his health bar. As again, it is Golden Guardians who overstayed. Now it is Dragoon who's just kind of walking in. Can they get him here?
A lot of health to work through, but they got a lot of damage brought to this party. Damage goes through. Iconic will be able to take him down. Some pressure relieved over on the bot side, as now Tony Top will continue to try and grab those plates. Only 15 seconds left as the mid lane tower is taken by No Team.
And the trade-off is they get a little bit back for both Iconic and then a small amount back for Renekton as well, for Tony Top. But the trade-off is that Blaze picks up an additional kill and a play on top side, where they're able to get 2 members after everything's said and done. And they pull mid tower with Scooped for free, as well as top tower now, and then I mean, that just means look how much pressure is now on top side when it comes to warding and control. They can go after Rift Herald as well, which would give them 2 dragons, 2 Rift Heralds, the gold advantage in this game, and a lot of towers in their back pocket in exchange for, I would say, probably what is an equalized top lane matchup that feels a little bit very lopsided to the side of No Team as opposed to what Golden Guardians got.
14 minutes into this game, 6 kills over to Golden Guardians Academy, 9 to No Team. It's a strong start for No Team, but Golden Guardians Academy have been able to find their footing, have been able to start to turn this around. No Team not done just yet. 3K separating these teams. Now your bot lane's focused over towards the mid lane. There's a lot of established vision from the side of No Team towards the Baron side of the map. They are able to get some deep jungle wards over towards Golden Guardians jungle. A reset coming out from Golden Guardians as they start hitting the rift for the next time, looking for the next objective to grab.
For a second there, I thought we were going to get really spicy. I saw Blazes with the Ludens in that inventory. I'm like, oh, Ludens Galio. Yeah, you're doing damage, man. We're getting a run back of Robbie Bob's Rabadon's Rabadon's Galio from back in the day. But unfortunately not going to be the case. He just goes back to Everfrost. The damage actually here is more in Griffin's pocket. There's not big advancement for Scoop. He's picked up a couple of towers. Golden Guardian's going to be able to snag, but that was too close for comfort. Thankfully, Griffin not going to get grabbed. Pat on the back. Oh, they're going to go for it anyway.
Oh, here comes the teleport, looking for Iconic. Oh. Iconic gets rooted up and taunted. Iconic is caught and dropped. Griffin able to grab that kill. Good teleport play coming out of No Team, pushing Golden Guardians out of their own jungle.
Yeah, great punish right there from No Team. I'm not sure what else it gets them. I guess they get pushing lanes in top and in mid lane to be able to work with. There's no dragon that's going to be up for any really quickly. It's still 2 minutes out, so it is just a kill for the sake of kills, and it denies them a usage of this Rift Herald top anytime soon. In fact, actually, they're going to use this to push very heavily on top side. They've got 4 members here. Wow. They just sense that Golden Guardians isn't here to put any respect towards top tower. They're just going to snag it away.
Oh my goodness, Chime with the God Hand! Able to find the hook on the ADC, but it's a 1-for-1 trade thus far. Stixay trying to create some room, able to predict where Griffin was going to go, able to take down Griffin in the process. The tower low, but No Team has no chance of taking it right now. They're going to go for the retreat as they put up the box to get some zone control. Good goal. Golden Guardians Academy able to get a good hook there.
That's incredible. They lean into this, and I was like, okay, this looks a little freer than you would want it to be. Scooped, however, he kind of like postures on the right side of this lane because he wants more access away. Look at that angle that Chime found.
Beautiful.
This is not the first time I've seen him punish a team that is not positioning properly underneath the dived tower, which is a little bit weird to me that has happened a handful of times here for this team. Griffin goes under to try to salvage this a little bit more, but that ends up just being another shutdown to Iconic, and they're able to kind of close out everything, and you can see the response now. The Rift Herald gets Stixay in the mid tower. They shut down the top side play with a couple of kills. Bottom side, more kills into the, or more tower gold, I guess, into the pockets of Tony Top, and it lets them set up now for back timings around this next dragon where they could go fight if they absolutely wanted to. They still have the Diana Yasuo. They still have this combination that's very powerful in the right situation. A lot of AoE behind this comp as well means that Golden Guardians, who have shrunk this lead twice now, this time all the way back to 1.5k exclusively, have another fighting chance into No Team. They continue to punish overextensions that No Team is trying to use to get themselves really solidified in the lead and just bringing it back into their own favor.
You just can't count them out. They're willing to fight. They're willing to catch any hiccup you're willing to do. And now with this reset, there's going to be 5 seconds before the Infernal Drake does spawn. No Team will be the first to the punch here. They'll get priority on it, establish some vision. It doesn't look like Golden Guardians want to challenge for it. Instead, they're going to send Ryoma over towards the top side, be able to claim that tower by himself. Blaze over on the defense. Chime is roaming towards that top side as well. Drake going over to No Team.
Well played. Set themselves up for a lot of success. Oh, pull over the wall is going to set up Ryoma for an ultimate. I think Blaze just dies here, unfortunately, as they find a play on the other side of the map. A little bit of a pittance. They are getting gold into Ryoma, which I think is super important for their team fighting eventually, but they've now given up 3 dragons. So that's no team in a situation where they can find themselves in the possession of an Infernal Soul against a team that doesn't look to scale incredibly well. They've got Yasuo, Diana, yes, but they're like everything else behind it. It feels like a composition that's really, really focused on making sure that that big AoE lands. And if it doesn't, there's a lot of problems that can come about from the remainder of what happens inside of a team fight, especially against a Jinx that could be leveling up, a Viego that's going to be really powerful, and again, this Darius who's going to be able to interact with way too many of these champions to feel comfortable. So to me, Golden Guardians Academy still feels rough.
We've seen this before, trying to catch out Stixxay, able to give him his 3rd death of the game. Unfortunately, Kill not going over to Scoop with the Super Mega Death Rocket. Hasn't been able to pick up Kill. Has gotten some good tower plates, as well as tower gold as well. Stixxay off the map is going to give No Team some time to get some presence over towards this Baron side. More prominently, 3 minutes, 45 seconds before that final Infernal Drake spawns, and No Team might want to shift their vision over there to get the Drake sold. Is a win condition on the table.
Truly is. Being able to snag that one would mean quite a bit of damage in your back pocket. The Infernal Soul is far more valuable, I think, for the side of Golden Guardians, so they desperately not only want to stop Infernal Soul from going over to No Team, but they themselves want quite a bit. But you also have to think about like what happens in a team fight. For Golden Guardians, if they land the engagement onto Scoops and maybe even onto Griffin, those are the 2 big ones that I'm looking at. If those 2 have the engagement landed onto him, they probably die. Like, there is no other way that goes, right? Like, if Scoop and Griffin get caught in the Diana ultimate into a Yasuo ultimate, or like a Stixxay like ultimate from everything gets silenced up or whatever, can't get out of that situation, they probably die, and then Infernal Soul has a lot less value. So you have to consider that as well, which is that I'm not saying Infernal Soul is bad on No Team. They're going to love it. They're going to take it 100%, and it's going to be massive for their team. But there are opportunities for Golden Guardians to play around that dragon. If they want to give it up for whatever reason, it's not impossible to win. They're giving themselves a massive handicap if they're going to be doing that. It's going to be really tough to come back from it. But I don't see it impossible to win this game for Golden Guardians if they happen to lose that. But it does require exact pinpoint execution.
Turn the camera away, producer. Why you got to show Iconic doing
You don't
that?
have to. You didn't have to mention it. We could have just let it be. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess that's on me as well. And Chime is on top of Jishuke. There comes the last breath. It's going to be Jishuka's last breath. Ryoma is able to get that kill and starts to back off. That is just support down. A lot of vision control. Going to be denied from No Team. Looking for more is going to be Iconic. Hops over the wall, looks to grab the golems. Griffin forced to walk away. Golden Guardians Academy. This map belongs to them. 20 minutes into this game.
Respect has to be given. Again, Scooped isn't far enough in to where, if you stand super far back in a fight and you wait for the engagement to go off, you can just carry right through it, especially with the shield that can come through from Yasuo, the Windfall. Now you're seeing Griffin versus Iconic jungle v jungle. Galliol's coming in to support it.
Ooh, jumps in with the ultimate. Griffin will take down Iconic.
Whoa!
One more. Dashes right after Ryoma. Ryoma able to get the knockup in the process as the Root comes out over the wall. Chime trying to save. Doesn't even try it at this point. No Team able to find 2 in both the mid laner and the jungler. This gives them some priority over the Baron pit.
Yeah, they should snag the Baron. Actually, there is no jungler here. There is no Yasuo here, so they don't even care if somebody throws in on top of what happens. They just snag this away. There's nothing that they can do to stop them, and
Easy.
that's No Team winning very simply. Yeah, both teams have been caught out in very strange positions in a number of different situations inside of this game that have flopped this game back and forth and back and forth. This, to me, feels like No Team's best way of just kind of closing things out. They've got Baron buff to set a mid and bot wave. They can walk in and take Infernal Drake. They haven't really had the chance on the side of Golden Guardians to stall this game out with Iconic and with Ryoma, and at this point, there's no opportunity to really snag Dragon unless, No Team just decides that they don't want to go for it right here. They're setting up members inside of the jungle, but it feels like, I don't know, at this point, like No Team would have to make a massive mistake or walk into complete absolute invisibility and Chime picking somebody off, necessary for them to lose this Dragon if they push out mid and bot wave properly, if they're able to kind of capture control of their own jungle. The one option they have, again, Chime is perhaps the one situation they've got. They've got their ultimates up as well, so if No Team is really not careful about how they encroach into the river, there could be problems.
Definitely expecting this rotation of No Team. Golden Guardians Academy trying to be the first one to the footing. Griffin goes forward, pops his ultimate, looks to chase for more. Iconic and Ryoma now on the run. Going to use the Blast Plant, used beautifully. Gets Golden Guardians Academy over the wall. No Team knocked back. Now the ultimate will be down for Griffin as the Infernal Drake is going to spawn. Golden Guardians Academy looking to contest this one. Tony Top on the far end will be looking for the flank. It has been leashed. Ryoma looking to get some more damage onto it. It gets lower and lower in the process. Standing 5 strong is going to be no teams. Tony Top still waiting on that flank. He has been spotted at this point.
Yoink.
And there goes the hook. They go straight for Dragoon. Dragoon takes a lot of damage in the process, but he will not fall. Griffin dives forward, able to pop the ultimate, goes after Ryoma, but sticks in Ryoma so far uncontested. That's going to change as Jishuka lands a hook right onto him. And now the Rockets, it's time to get excited as Scoop is able to land auto after auto, get the zap and clean up the battlefield. Golden Guardians Academy fall. A quadra kill coming in for Scoop as no team takes the map.
And a tower of cards comes falling down from the side of Golden Guardians Academy. Everything that could have gone awry for them right there went completely awry. The initial engagement, not ideal. I actually thought this was super good for Golden Guardians, but they are struggling now because they don't have the positioning to get any sort of flank angle for either a Stixay ultimate or for a Kanki to get an ultimate to set up Ryoma. They are kind of just staring down their opposition, hoping that Chime finds a decent hook. And does he find one? Sure. He pulls in Darius, perhaps the worst member on this entire team to actually pull in, because now you got a Darius in melee range. He's able to hit a Q. He's able to stay alive long enough. Toby Top, I think, did some decent work stalling out for Blaze's ultimate on the top side of that fight, but see how much that Griffin got done. And then Scoop gets to work his way back to front through this fight. Everything that could have gone wrong, I'm going to list it out. First off, they lose this fight. That's terrible. Number 2, they're going to lose the Infernal Drake because this entire team fight goes awry. Number 3, the only other thing they could have had, again, is fighting against the Infernal Drake. Now this is 4 kills into the Jinx. This is a Jinx that can solo carry the game. Every little bit of chance that Golden Guardians held to really contest is now gone. No team is in firm control of the game. It would require an absolute disaster for them to lose at this point. It would require the perfect combination of ultimates from Golden Guardians Academy to even have a chance against no team at this point.
Yeah, it is so damn hard for Golden Guardians Academy to do much in this game. It's definitely rough for them. Lots of short-range champions, lots of good skirmishers, but we're now at a phase where Scoop is unlocked, and he has a lot of protection to work around with him. Jishuka has been doing an excellent job of both defending him and landing some of the most pivotal hooks that we've been seeing in this fight. One of them landing onto Ryoma at the later half of that team fight, denying him, as deep as he was, any chance to really team fight. Now Golden Guardians Academy, they're just trying to pick up whatever scraps they can, but they are so far behind. They have so much they have to work through. They're going to need to try and find some of these picks, and that's what they're trying to do as they go once again after Dragoon Smash, able to pull him in. Waiting for that Juggernaut Q to come out. Will be able to get a lot of healing back. Dragoon will not be smashed. He will do the smashing as he comes down with the Noxian Guillotine. Iconic falls. Ryoma falls. And Dragoon is not done just yet. He wants a piece of Toady Top. This was his late opponent here. This was his challenge. The Super Mega Death Rocket going to go off, but it's going to land onto nothing as Golden Guardian Academy. Their base is going up in flames. No team. They have a retort, and they make their presence known against Golden Guards Academy. You cannot ego draft again. You have to take them seriously. They are not even done with this game. They don't want the Nexus. They want to pad the stats. They want the KDA. I don't blame you, Scoop. Pick it up. Pick up that Nexus. 1-1. We have a series.
Oh, goodness gracious. I couldn't have expected, I don't think everybody would have expected this to go to a full 3 games after everything we had seen from no team throughout the qualifier, but goodness gracious, they show up when they need to, they battle against the ego draft, they shut down where they need to shut down, and it is a spectacular look from the side of no team against Golden Guardians, our premier and only Academy team inside of this. I can give props to pretty much everybody across the team. I think everybody had their own individual plays. Dragoon, that final play, this is an infernal Soul Darius, and they're diving him. The Gordricker healed him for half his health. What are you supposed to do against that in one regard? But also, I have to give props to the 15-year-old man. Griffin, he played out the laning plays perfectly to help get Blazes ahead. It helped them with their team fighting to salvage everything in the mid game, and he was a massive damage dealer and a big diver inside of those fights to help disrupt everything Golden Guardians was trying to do. Couldn't give enough props to him for stepping up inside of a game like this, saying, I want to put the team on my back, and he did exactly that.
That was some good stuff coming out of no team, especially after we saw that game number 1. It was a question of, is morale there? Are they going to be able to come back and bring any fight to Golden Guardians Academy? Golden Guardians Academy, straight hubris coming out with this draft, and no team was able to punish them, and they punished them as a group. If you check any of the damage charts throughout those fights, the damage is relatively even all across the board. This was a team that played together and was able to dominate Golden Guardians through that team play.
Yeah, big props to them for being able to step up in the right situation, play as a team, play in the comfort style that they've actually been doing for the majority of the split. And now it comes back to Golden Guardians. Side selection, you get that for one thing, number one. Number two, you have to figure out what your composition is going to look like. They've gone for 2 drafts in a row with this Diana first pick, and they've gone really heavily towards champions that are more expressive of skill more than anything else, more than something that we would consider to be very cohesive or very meta at this moment specifically. And so this is something that I think needs to change specifically. 2 Blitzcrank games in a row for Chime, hilarious, amazing, by the way, not knocking his performance at all. But the composition as a whole, I think, needs to be more cohesive. Like you said, I think they need to consider No Team a legitimate threat to their continuation inside of this event.
All right, we're going to throw over to a short break. When we return, Izzy and the analyst desk will be there to break down this game, so be sure to stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the desk. No Team ties up the score 1-1. Hawk, are you feeling a little better about your prediction?
I told you, 2-1. They just get destroyed in game 1, come back with a vengeance in game 2. It's in the script. I saw it. Hypertension passed it to me. I know that it's happening. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
I shouldn't have told you there was still a chance.
Well, if we pull up the draft here, Hawk, break down for us. How does this draft, how did this draft bring No Team to a 1-1?
Well, so it's really surprising because, Manny and I were talking during the game about the draft, and we thought this was a Golden Guardians favorite draft because it's basically the same concept of their composition last game. However, it's more coherent. Like Renekton Diana, super strong dive squad. Renekton providing strong laning and CC setup up there on the top side. The Yasuo is a traditional pairing with it, even though it looks like a bit of an ego pick. It's actually a pretty safe blind into most of the long range artillery mages that are being played mid, and it synergizes exceptionally well with Diana. And if your object of the game is to snowball mid game like it was last time around, it looks great. You've got the Blitzcrank again as well with the Kalista, the Ballista lane. Everything looks like it's coming together. And meanwhile, No Team, they mostly went for comfort across the board. Dragoon got his signature Darius. We see Blaze getting put on Galio duty. A Thresh locked in this time for Jashuka, which I think made a lot of sense. It's more high tempo than the Lulu. However, not quite as much coherence. Viego, bit of a low tempo jungler, something we would not have expected necessarily from Griffin, and the Darius not having a whole lot of setup there. But apparently it doesn't matter who's winning draft in this series, Manny.
Well, actually, I think it does. What the thing is if you're a fan of one of these two teams and we say that your team has the better draft, you should watch out because apparently we're wrong.
Yeah, if it's a No Team draft, No Team loses. If it's a DGA draft, DGA loses. So, speaking of draft and game and Golden Guardians losing, I do want to talk about this first solo kill in the top lane. Manny, take it away.
Right. So if we want to run the replay here, I mean, this is vintage Dragoon right gameplay right here. He walks into you at level 1 on Darius. I was seething as someone who gets, whenever I play autofill and ranked, I always wind up against a Darius. They do this to me, and it's just so brutal because you cannot walk to the wave, you can't contest anything, and he just kind of walks in you, and Tony Top's like, surely he can't just do this to me and win. And it turns out, yeah, he can. He just flashes in, gets the kill there, and it just feels so bad. Not only does he lose the whole first wave, right? He's running Ignite on Renekton, so he's got to walk all the way back up there slowly, and it just feels sad. But listen, you got Dragoon on your team. This is a vintage Dragoon Darius game, and he did a great job. And how did
sorry,
go on.
No, I'm gonna say, how did this set No Team up a little more confidently in the last game to go for those dives and get ahead?
Well, originally we didn't really, if we want to go to this bot dive here, we didn't really think that this would be as strong of a laning game as it turned out to be. But it turns out No Team were able to, on the weak side here in the bot lane, pull off this really ridiculous dive that kind of sets this whole game into motion here. And this Galio ult here is pretty good. It allows them to really solo out Iconic here. And it's just really difficult here for Golden Guardians. They get 2 kills picked up here. And I believe Griffin actually in this skirmish ends up with 3 kills. And this just kind of starts the Viego snowball rolling. And at this point, it's something that they did a lot of the time here. This was proactive from No Team. But throughout this game, they were kind of punishing a lot of the proactive plays that Golden Guardians were doing. And after this, they were able to the reason they were able to do a lot of that is because of this play that got the Viego rolling so early, and it made it really, really difficult for GGA to play the game because Iconic was hitting his camps, but there's 3 kills on the enemy Viego, so at that point it becomes a lot harder.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible too because that dive was extremely well executed by No Team, but I mean, triple ignite coming through here from Golden Guardians Academy, getting punished pretty hard. You already mentioned it on Tony Top having to walk back from the first blood, and then also no TPs to respond to the dive. Because even with the changes to teleport now in Season 12, they're still useful responding to dives. You can teleport to your tower at any time and answer those. So nothing being able to come through from a global perspective means that this Galio pick just gets that much more value. It seems like No Team, they did their homework. They found the dark technology. If you want to beat Golden Guardians Academy, you pick Galio, and it worked extremely well. They got super far ahead off of that bot dive, and even though there was a couple of fumbles towards the mid game, we saw a couple of overextensions on the top side that got punished, giving away some gold. They never really gave away the game, and if we can go to our final replay that we have here for you, it's the game deciding fight before Soul Scooped has finally come online, and this is just beautiful positioning here from the side of No Team. First of all, Dragoon getting hooked in and not able to be blown up is enormous, but look at the Galio and the Thresh working in tandem to zone out the front line. First, Tony Top is taunted, exhausted, Galio ulted, going in. The Thresh playing defense as well with the Yasuo here, and as soon as Scooped picks up 1 reset, it's 2, then 3, then 4, and it ends up being a massive quadra kill, and No Team not really looking back in the game from that point on. It was just beautiful to watch, really. And Golden Guardians Academy now, they tried to go for a bit more of an early game play, and I said before last game, the game plan is the same if you're No Team. Just don't fall behind catastrophically within 10 minutes. And this game had happened, and they outperformed Golden Guardians Academy in the team fights. They found the win. The series is now 1-1. Winner take all in the next game.
Yeah, I mean, it was really well played from Scooped in that fight. He positioned super well going into the Dragon Pit there. He knew that, all the big tanks on his team would have his back. But something I do want to point out there is, sure, Tony Top gets a nasty flank, but it's really, really hard for Golden Guardians to win that fight because nobody besides the Jinx, and if the Jinx positions well, she's not really scared of Renekton there. No one on GGA, on No Team, is at all scared of the Renekton there, and Iconic gets blown up before he can even get into the fight to Diana ult. So they have literally no dive, and the Jinx does 7,500 damage in that team fight, in part because after they don't blow up Dragoon, he gets an excellent ult on the Diana to execute her before she can ult, and it just means that, GGA have no prayer of getting to that Jinx, and Scoop can just run everybody down.
Yeah, well, and it's oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. No, you go.
And it's a similar story to last game, where, the open qualifier, where Scooped, once he came online, was a massive carry for this team. No Team clearly has shown a very strong understanding of how to win team fights. They did it in this game. They did it in their first game where they lost in open qualifiers. Last game, they didn't have the chance to get there, right? But if this team is able to come online, Scooped can be a massive carry. You mentioned 7,500 damage is just a bonkers damage number. And so having an 80 carry like that on your team can be a huge plus.
Well, wrapping things up before we send it to a quick break before Game 3, I do want to hear you guys' thoughts. How does GGA adjust to, bring up the series to a 2-1?
Well, I think that for Golden Guardians, right, I think you kind of need to back off a little bit here on what's a way to put this? The confident drafting, let's say. I don't think that they should first pick Diana again. No. I don't know how controversial of an opinion that is, but they did it 2 games in a row, and it worked out in the first game, but, in the second game they didn't. Now, once again, this is not a best of 5. This is a best of 3. This is match point. If you lose this game, you are out of this tournament, and you are an academy team. Golden Guardians cannot afford to lose this. They're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to, obviously, probably not first pick that Diana again, but also, listen, this is the type of hard-hitting analysis you can only get from this desk, right? And Golden Guardians, they haven't lost a game in this tournament to anything. They've only lost games to Galio, so they got to ban Galio. Clearly, they got to get it out of here. They're 0-2 against Galio.
Yeah, it's like Wheel of Fortune. Ban Galio, that's the answer. I mean, and they've legitimately struggled with it outside of the meme. Watching what Galio players have been able to do, it just seems like Golden Guardians Academy isn't quite sure how to protect their side lanes when they don't have mid priority. They're so used to Ryoma really dominating the mid lane matchup. And if you're not able to get such a strong laner like the Lucian that we saw in game one, I feel like it gets extremely difficult for Golden Guardians Academy to play the game. And all credit to Blaze, you know, he was the absolute focal point of game number one in all of the wrong ways. And here in game number two, he picks the Galio and he plays phenomenally, setting up in particular for Griffin really, really well. So, you know, if you're Golden Guardians Academy, your game plan doesn't change. It's win through mid. Shut down mid, you shut down Griffin, you shut down no team. It's simple. But if you're first picking Diana every game, I mean, this is the second game in a row where it's not really done anything. Yeah, you won game one, but that was not because of the Diana first pick. It was because of the Lucian Blitz. And, you know, you weren't able to find the same influential picks that you were on the Blitz in game number one. Yasuo wasn't able to get going and everything fell apart. So whether that means you pick a little bit more scaling, which I don't think is necessarily the answer because we've seen how well no team can team fight. You just need to, you know, pick some safer blinds. So that way now, you know, if you either go to red side to get counter picks or if you stay on blue side, you can find counter picks at least for one of your lanes to try to find something to play around.
Yes, for sure. And I know you guys have heard of Taco Tuesday with our friends over at Taco Gaming, but I would like to propose to you No Team Tuesday, as they have a chance to, you know, take this series 2-1. We're going to send it to a break though, so don't go anywhere. We'll come back with game 3.
Welcome back, everyone. And what a response from No Team, Dean. My goodness gracious, we're going to a game 3, but not without any style. No Team was able, they were able to dominate that on all fronts. I do want to say, I don't think there was an inherent MVP in that one because everyone had a role they needed to play and they played it to perfection.
I'd give it to Griffin, personally. I made my case for it before we even started the pause. But yeah, I agree with you. That was a well-oiled machine that had come out from the side of No Team, which is, I think, at least from my experience in watching this team quite a bit, is kind of how the team handles, right? Like, this isn't a team that's like, they're not going to super hard explode through one player individually. A lot of them are very talented. They're able to come together very well for team fighting and things along those lines. So it's just about getting to that point in the game where they can actually start to begin to put their composition together as it needs to be. So I'm interested to see what Golden Guardians' response is to everything that has been coming about against the side of No Team, mostly due to the fact that, of course, they've gone for the same draft basically 2 games in a row. We know that's not always the style that they're willing to play. I'm curious just how different of a look that this is going to be from the side of Golden Guardians.
I am very curious as well, because we talked about these first two drafts and they felt very egotistical. They felt very arrogant. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and that game two was definitely pure arrogance coming in. The way things will shape up, our analyst test was saying some points, expecting Galio bans. The fact that Golden Guardians Academy haven't beaten a Galio yet. Saying to play more through mid. Hawk was really emphasizing that at that point. How do you see this play coming through?
It's an interesting just idea pretty much across the board. The fear here is Golden Guardian's previous strategy felt like it was countered by making sure Ryoma, who was kind of the centerpiece of both compositions, was not going to go explode, right? In game one, the Aphelios was kind of the one late game scaling option that they had on the side of Golden Guardians with the Sticks A. Even Tony Top felt like the Gwen was also an option. Game two, the reason it felt a lot more ego is because they had nothing like that. They only had Ryoma, which is why that mid counterplay also happens. But now that they're on red side, you drum up more problems. Like, what if Sticks A picks another scaling pick? What if Ryoma gets counterpicked? More terrifyingly, what if Tony Top gets counterpicked? And now all of a sudden you don't get Darius into Renekton, you get Darius into Jax, and he beats down the Darius somehow during the laning phase because he's an expert at that. Not that matchup is ever going to come about, almost certainly, but just as it's a problem in theory here. Golden Guardians has so much they can change. I feel like no team actually has to be a lot more afraid of what's about to happen from Golden Guardians' perspective.
Yeah, because this is definitely a different perspective. It's going to be the first time Golden Guardians Academy are on the red side for this series. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. First bans coming in is going to be Gwen, Corki, and TF for no team, as well as LeBlanc and Diana. So taking away that Diana, making sure Iconic can't play it again, going after LeBlanc and the Renekton this time. So we'll take away the Croc as well.
Is it a first pick Viego is my question. I feel like Viego was really good for Griffin, and I'd be willing to see them go for it again. This is the other one was Caitlyn, which has been absent from this series for the most part. Now actually rears its head in game number 3. Scoop decides to take it up. They can move it into anything. Jinx, however, is a good enough champion into it to go crazy, and if they wanted to pair it with the combination of the Karma, they have an unreal amount of pushing pressure. They've got roaming pressure. They've got a great ADC for scaling, and there's not much that you could take alongside the Caitlyn that's going to be able to bully out a Jinx Karma lane. So I feel like that could be an insta-lock here if they really wanted it to be. I do like the fact that they just go for the Karma, then they're going to consider the second pick, because this is an amazing pick for Chime pretty much no matter what you're going to pair with it.
Caitlyn locked in for Scooped. Did play it a little bit in the open qualifiers, had some good success on it as the Karma, and Xin Zhao gets locked in. And Xin Zhao one is a more exciting one for me because Iconic has been playing a lot of Xin in this current season, and he's been pretty much dominating with this champion.
He has been. It's been a lot better. Again, our first two games weren't. The Diana hadn't popped up for Iconic for at least a little bit of time, or wasn't the most consistent champion that he's taken. This has been both the meta pick and also the Iconic pick for Iconic, obviously, inside of the jungle. And the response is Griffin's actually been on the other side of this. It's been both the Viego and the Trundle as the two options that I've seen that Griffin has really played into the most between these two, and opts for the Trundle just because, again, it's a front line. The pillar is incredible for being able to attack early, especially if you want to set up for mid lane pressure and things like that, if new control mages or anything Ryoma could bring out, so it's not shocking along those lines. And they're going to go for the Lux and the Lux and the Caitlyn. It's one of my favorite bot lane pairings. You have so much range and so much kill threat from these two, and it's kind of hard to find a perfect champion to fit into finding aggression. So instead, it is the opposite of that. They go, okay, we're going to put Ezreal on the bottom side, and now we're going to have Chime have the ability to roam anywhere, anytime he wants, because we've got nothing but safety on the bottom side.
Yeah, and the Caitlyn Lux is something that we have seen at least played a lot on the side of Stixay and Chime. Does provide that extra aggression, does provide a lot of it's hard to play against, man. That's all I can really say. It's kind of frustrating, and I think the Ezreal is definitely a good response to provide some protection to not be too choked out. It's not a champion we've seen him play a little bit too much. I believe he started playing it in Academy, but for him, the wheelhouse has always been around the Caitlyn, around the Aphelios, around the Jhin. It's still a champion he's proficient in as we head into the second phase of the draft.
To me, the Ezreal is a combination of two things. It is safety, and then also, again, it's allowing for Chime to leave. The problem with it is you have no wave clear against this combination of bot lane, and you're not going to have a lot of units that have the ability to contest the bot push that a Caitlyn Lux is going to be able to bring to the game, even with a Karma. So their option is, okay, we want to unlock Chime. We want something that's not going to be self-sufficient. So they opt for that. Stixay, perfectly capable of piloting a champion like this. He's got his experience under his belt, so he's able to go out and about. And hopefully this means that the combination combination of Iconic and Chime once again get to threaten the entirety of the map, especially because if you leave Caitlyn Lux to their own volition on the bottom side of the map, things go very poorly, because all of a sudden Caitlyn gets to spike past that mid-game trough that everybody likes to talk about, and now you have the perfect sieging combination for anywhere on the map, and all of a sudden she's got 15 plates in her back pocket, and you've lost the game already.
All right, second phase of the draft. Bans coming out. No team really focusing onto that top lane, taking out Camille and Jax. Going to be getting Plank and Singed with a response from Golden Guardians Academy as they lock in the Victor. So getting some zone control, grading that control mage over towards the mid lane. Waiting for the response to come out of No team for the time being.
I wonder if Vex is in the pool of Blaze here. It's not bad into this. It's helpful also for just getting a full-on engagement into the Victor, especially if you pair it with the Trundle. And more specifically, it's actually really good at just making sure that you can stick to the Ezreal in the backline, because it requires two different kind of disengages between the ultimate and everything else to get the Ezreal out of harm's way, especially with the range that Vex brings for diving into the backline. So those threats would be good. There's another one, though, is the Zoe. Again, it's all about putting damage into these backliners to the best of your ability. Again, Vex has been kind of more, I think, general inside of this tournament, but Zoe players are all showing us time and time again what reason is that this champion just remains in the meta permanently. And not only that, but it also continues to compound on this massive range advantage that no team has drafted for.
Yeah, no team, so much range and such a strong front line on top of that. It's going to be very hard for Golden Guardians to have to push through that. They are definitely going to have to dictate the pace of the team fights to be able to find that. And the response from Golden Guardians Academy, Tony Top, is throwing down the gauntlet once again. He sees Dragoon go for the Ornn, go for the Tinky Boy. No, we want the fight. Tony Top lops in Fiora.
It's a situation in which I feel as though Golden Guardians look at this game and they say, what can we take here that rounds out this composition? We have decent range in a number of places. We have we've got a lot of wave clear to work with. We've got good poke. We're playing against a team that's going to siege against us really heavily, and we've got a long range engage in the Ornn. It's really painful to deal with this. So what do? What is the solution? Don't play a team fight. Give Tony Top a champion that he can absolutely demolish side lanes with, and let him go tear Dragoon to pieces. This is the preference pick. This is the counter pick. This is old school Tony Top. It's not the Jax, of course, but it is a split pushing pick that he is incredibly competent on, and I am for one super excited to see it. The rest of the composition is safe enough to not die to a lot of the poke. If the Victor is doing well and not down 5 kills by 14 minutes into the game, we should be okay with the Victor just wave clearing against this composition, and that buys so much time for Fiora to just try to win the game on her own.
And what worries me for No Team is it's going to be very hard to get some early presence onto this map. There is a lot of early wave control that you see from Golden Guardians. You know, the Karma can shove in waves quite effectively as well as the Victor. No Team just... They just seem like straight up a poke comp and a team fight comp, and that's all they really want to play around.
It's a matter of where is Griffin striking on the map. I feel as though there's places to attack, right? Like you can drop a pillar behind Fiora, she gets slowed down. If Ornn's able to kind of compound with that, all of a sudden the Fiora's in some trouble. It's the same with Victor in the mid lane. You can set up for a bubble or something along those lines. In the bottom lane, you can actually get that going very quickly with the combination of the Caitlyn and the Lux, those two together. And it challenges, I think, the Xin Zhao a lot better. The early game doesn't feel bad necessarily for No Team. But like you said, I feel like there's no real place to find all this aggression. There's no actual we're gonna set up this gank and we're gonna go. It's just Griffin's ability to find and generate his own momentum in this game that's really gonna get tested. And to me, that's where Iconic has to kind of come in. Iconic's job in this game, I feel like, is less so to get his lanes ahead outside of top lane, and really more just to facilitate and make sure the early game doesn't go poorly. Because if it doesn't, you got Ezreal, you got Victor to rely on, you got Karma to help out your team composition. You're not dying most of the time because his team outside of the Ornn ultimate doesn't have the greatest of engage in the entire world. They got a lot of pick potential, but if you've got the vision control, you can rely on your Fiora to just win on the other side of the map.
And again, Iconic, he is no stranger to the Xin Zhao pick. He's been playing into the LCS lock-in. He's been playing it in Academy as well. He's playing it in this tournament a lot. This is a bread and butter pick for him, at least for this season so far. It's been the pick he keeps returning to. So it's going to be a pick that's definitely going to challenge the living daylights out of Griffin and the rest of No Team. And, if No Team are able to win off this, off Iconic being on that is a huge step up for them. That is a huge confidence booster. That is almost hinging your bets on the No Team to take the whole thing because, again, this is a challenge of a draft to work with.
To me, I feel as though No Team, their biggest asset is that they have a lot of, they've got really good wave clear to start off the game compared to their like opponents, especially on bottom side. Dragon stacking's got to go in their favor. When you've got Trundle into pretty much any AD jungler to start the game, you should have the ability to win that pure one-on-one, especially with support from your bottom side, and that means that Dragon's going to get unlocked really quickly. Stacking those Dragons, all of a sudden it gives you a bunch of pressure, because either A, you can start threatening for the soul point, or B, you get to start using, Lux Binding, you start using Zoe Bubble, trap lines, things like that to control all of this kind of area in front of the Dragon Pit and just command so much respect from No Team or from the side of Golden Guardians, where all of a sudden if you're playing for these objectives and this Fiora hasn't already won the side lane and isn't threatening inhibitors and things like that, I mean, there's real problems. Like the Fiora has to start joining fights, you have to start flanking with that, and all of a sudden you're playing into this 5-on-5 comp, which is what No Team really wants you to do.
And it is a tricky one to lock down over on Golden Guardians Academy's side. When you're trying to chase down this composition that Golden Guardians have drafted, the Xin Zhao can provide that crescent guard to make sure that none of that long range is going to be that effective, as Real's a safe champion, as you mentioned earlier. But also you do get the movement speed boost of the Karma that can be used both defensively and offensively. There's a lot of tools for Golden Guardians to utilize here, and I personally like the way that they've gone for their draft. It doesn't really hinge on too much being set up. It has a lot that itself executes.
On the other hand, however, I do feel as though if their Fiora isn't really set up to really drive this wedge in between the composition of what No Team has brought, it's really hard to execute on a Victor and then also an Ezreal into like a Caitlyn, Lux, and a Zoe because of how far back they can play the game, right? There's no melee champions really to deal with. Yes, you might be able to pick off Trundle, but there's nothing else to really accomplish in that regard. So I feel like it's also difficult to find yourself a true win condition here. Both teams end up on the bottom side, spotting each other out. A little tip of the hat on both sides, making sure nobody's going to fall into place too heavily. They're going to snag that ward as fast as they can. A little bit of gold back and forth between both teams.
I was getting ready for something exciting there, but yeah, go figure. Put the ward for safety. No first blood action going to happen within the minute as the reset does come in. Again, this is the final game, a best of 3 series. Winner will proceed through the bracket stage. Loser will be going home.
I will also, I want to posit this because I think there's not too much importance behind this, but it's at least something to consider, which is that this isn't the most meaningful thing for Golden Guardians Academy, right? They don't have to walk into this game and say, we have to win this or our lives are on the line, because they've got Academy and they've got Lock-in still, and they've got plenty of League of Legends still to be played, right? For No Team, though, I mean, placing 8th would knock this team into a rough position. I already talked about the fact that like this team could end up losing players. They might have to play with different players in the coming split. Combined with the fact that like just in this tournament alone, they want to prove that they're better than a lot of teams. There's so much more stake, I feel like, on the side of No Team. Not to say that Golden Guardians doesn't have a reason to win, but they don't get points. They don't get all the kind of the goodies that would come about.
Exchange going down here as Jashuka gets chunked on damage. You always got to respect that Karma. The base damage can be massive. The Ignite being used as well. But lane control is going to go over to No Team's bot lane. So they do shove in the wave. An exchange going on over to the top side. This is what we wanted to see. Tony Top looking to punish that Ornn pick.
Yeah, you remember last game how it was in the exact opposite matchup that was actually proxied? Yeah, Tony Top remembers Dragoon. Tony Top doesn't forget that Dragoon, okay? You don't get to play Ornn in a matchup up against the Fiora with all this auto attack canceling and just walk away with it for free, so not going to have that one happen. Funny enough, actually, it was pretty interesting interaction. He killed the ward on bottom side, and because of that, he got level 2 before Tony Top did. And I was wondering why, because he was not in control of that wave at all. And I'm like, wait a minute, he had the ward from bottom side, and that gives you just enough to get level 2 on 6 minions instead of 7 minions.
Griffin going for the invade here, starting to go into the jungle of Iconic. Will meet with him.
Hello.
Now the trades come in. It's pretty hard to deal with the one-on-one with Trundle, waiting to get the 3 Talon Strike knock up. There is the pillar, and there is Iconic's life. Might be going away. One more whack, and there it is, the thud. First blood goes over to Griffin.
Easy enough. This is the value of having a Trundle, right? It is so hard to fight him as a melee champion, and especially a melee AD champion. The Q gives AD drain. It's something that a lot of people... The W gives so much attack speed in the earlier levels of the gaming phase. And yes, you've got CC on Iconic. Look at that pillar. Knocks him right back into him. The smite actually hailed him more because of the W as well. Everything that could have gone right there for the Trundle is all based around this kit. And it's something that not a lot of people abuse super directly. I'm so happy to see Griffin. He's a young player, but he knows how to abuse the Trundle one-on-one matchup against another AD jungle. He puts pressure onto Iconic, and he's going to make sure to try to control this map. Again, that's his ideal of this game, is to try to pull some of these resources. You can see Jizuka is getting abused a little bit by Chime, but I do love the trade damage coming through from Scoop back and forth. This isn't just one directional damage. Both bot lanes are feeling the effects.
They are trading, but Scooped is getting lower. About 100 health remains. 300 health over on Stixxay. They are going to be able to clear the wave. They do have the minion wave to be able to defend them. Not going to be in too much trouble, as well as having the rest of no team to show up in the spot side. The tower dive begins. Looking for the root is going to be Chime, able to find it. Jumping forward. It's going to be Stixxay who will get the kill. Tries to find the double. Unable to get it. Blaze will find a kill on the Chime. 3 strong is no team. And that dive went completely awry as Stixxay is able to get one on the backside.
Really, really incredible stuff from Stixxay, being able to pull back 1 kill on that dive. That was looking disastrous. They had 4v2 on the bottom side underneath of that tower. It looked like it could have just been an easy kill against the Ezreal and the Karma, and all of a sudden, that means that the Caitlyn Lux just gets pure advantage on the bottom side. They can start breaking it loose. That 1 return kill is enough to help push that out. There's no real punishment to come off the back foot, and it's a massive CS advantage now for the Ezreal inside of this laning phase. Could have gone very topsy-turvy for the combination of Stixxay and Chime, but those two handled that dive very effectively.
A great dive forward coming out from Stixxay. Gets him a kill as he takes his recall down, now looking over back towards this top lane. Can't help but to notice how many times Dragoons had the EXP advantage early on, getting the level 5 before Tony Top. With this exchange here, we're not expecting to see too much because Dragoon's going to play it safer. He knows this is a counter pick. He doesn't want to risk anything. Tony Top will just be amounting a lot of control over towards his top side.
Yeah, it's already inside of the laning phase, even without having bat. Dragoon actually went for the Bramble Vest, which is going to shut down Tony Top's early pressure quite a bit. And I like this from Griffin. He's on a ward right now, but the intention of making sure that the Fiora is going to get shut out of this game, or slowed down at least, buys his team time to really operate on what they do well.
Ooh, here comes Chine. He's able to put down the root as well as the Mantrid Q, looking to get more damage onto Jashuka. Coming out from the wings, able to get the kill is going to be Ryoma.
Well played right there. Trundle back into the mid lane, was hovering topside. They knew he was there, so they're able to force in the mid side, and that opens up a bit more space in the mid lane to make sure that, once again, Chime actually gets a roam off. It was a great W for the root. I'm not sure if they slowed that down because they wanted to come through. Scooped actually is in a really...
He has no idea. He didn't see it coming. The blast plant was brilliant. And now Golden Guardians Academy going on to Scoop. They can't get any closer, though, because that pillar is doing some work. Out comes the Paddle Star, lands onto Iconic as Griffin continues the chase, waiting for his cooldowns to come back up.
He never froze.
The root. Blaze tries to get it. Another Paddle Star into Iconic as he runs so critically low. Out comes the Piltover. It is not enough. Sleepy Trouble Bubble lands. Can't find the damage to follow through. Almost disaster for Golden Guardians Academy as they make their retreat from a tough situation.
Both teams right there under just an enormous amount of pressure. Somehow Scoop was able to turn that around into a situation where he was the one on the offensive after he almost got wrapped around on with that blast plant. Creative use from Golden Guardians, everybody getting out without having to burn too much. Impressive stuff on both sides. Really, really well played. I'm just noticing, like, all this interaction we've had on this map is leaving, like, this big CS gap in the mid lane. I'm not sure. Blaze already roamed down to bottom lane at least once. I think now twice with that one as well, and was down 20 minions after this wave, which is kind of insane to think about the Zoe being down this far. Yes, you have the kill in return, which is like 15 minions or something like that to make up for it. But now that the Victor has a kill as well after that mid lane play, everything is neutralized, and Ryoma just has the pure advantage. You're not shutting out the wave clear that came about. I kind of want to see Griffin, maybe start to put attention as well. So many places require attention from this Trundle. It's kind of painful to think about what going through Griffin's head, because he wants to shut down the Fiora, he needs to shut down the Victor, he wants to help out his bottom lane.
It's a daycare, man. One's pantsing the other, one's trying to drink from the toilet, the other is upside down in the playpen.
There's something funny about a 15-year-old running a daycare, especially when they're all older than he is. Oh. You're not wrong, though.
Yeah. Grabbing the scuttle now, trying to make a recall is going to be Blaze, but instead looks to cancel it, potentially trying to set up a play onto Ryoma over here. Waiting in the wings, Ryoma, not sure if anyone's really waiting. Control ward there is going to give some sort of tip-off that a play is being set up. Jashuka will clear it, but Ryoma going to play it safe.
More importantly, Jizuka actually gets to roam up the top side here, which I think is pretty important because, again, it's set up for the Rift Herald. No team really wants to try to take some of these early game objectives. I think Dragon is going to end up being more important, but this is another one that they can use to try to get ahead of the Ezreal and the Victor before anything goes too awry.
Trying to defend the tower is going to be Dragoon as the lane swap does come out, putting pressure over towards the top side. Is going to be No Team as they send their bot lane over top, transferring that pressure to grab the Rift Herald. Griffin able to get that and now headed towards that top side. Tony Top still under the tower, looking to spawn that Rift Herald and grab the plates. Get more over for Scooped. Potential setup is there. No one to back up Tony Top over for Golden Gardens Academy, so Tony Top will play the safe, will not challenge any of this.
No, it is a trade-off of sides of the map. They just decided to put some additional gold into Stixxay's pocket. They're going to give up the first tower. The worst part about all this also is that this is a solid play from No Team because it also denies a fair amount of gold to Tony Top. They could just continue pushing this if they wanted to, if there's no support to come out. And you can see now that Stixxay and Chime, or my apologies, it's actually Iconic and Chime, who are on their way to the top side, but not before the play comes through on a Tony Top. Thankfully, he gets to queue out. But another charge and more pressure, more minions denied, hopefully, to the Fiora. Really smart gameplay from No Team, making sure to take some of the wind out of the Fiora sails while simultaneously getting their bot lane further ahead.
And Rebel, look at the bot lane over at Golden Guardians Academy. Just 2 plates picked up off of that exchange. That's a whole tower and another charge onto the inner, done by the side of No Team. It was a great pickup coming from their side. Poor response coming out of Golden Guardians Academy, trying to find something more as they start invading the jungle of Griffin. Throwing out the mantra, there is the snare. The ultimate's going to be used. Subjugate over the wall with the audacious charge. 3-tone strike for the knockup. And there comes the Crescent Guard, just getting some bonus damage to take down Griffin.
Good play. Just seeing that, like, everything across the map after the reset means that they can track, Griffin into his own jungle and find a play. And now maybe, I would say they could try to push and try to put some more into Tony Top, but they really can't right here. The Orange going to show up any second now. I do want to point out, just as a response to what you had said a second ago, yes, they only got 2 plates on bottom side, but actually Rihoma has picked up 3 plates off the mid tower on his own. So the Victor is insanely powerful. The Ludens is already done. That's your wave clear as well, which is feeling very great. So it's Scooped who picks up a good amount, but again, the gold is split between 3 members of No Team, as opposed to 3 plates of gold being thrown into Riomo's back pocket and 2 plates being thrown into Stixxay's back pocket. I think it ends up actually being helpful for Golden Guardians, especially with the Rift Herald usage. Now, this is where the real advantage is taken, is when they get these dragons and they can start to use their pick to their advantage to the best of their abilities. I think that's going to be humongous for this team eventually.
A good use of the mantra Q. It's going to be comboed with that True Shot Barrage, but now Stixxay has to Arcane Shift over the wall to get back to safety, trying to get whatever chip damage he can onto Scoop. But Scoop versus Stixxay in this matchup has been so exciting to watch, just them trying to dodge each other's skill shots, the Piltover Peacemaker. The Q is coming out from Ezreal. Mystic Shot, there we go. Forgot the name for just a second. And you could tell there's definitely a high-level play from both of these ADCs, is catching out Jishuka before he's able to make the recall. Will not get the light binding. Stixxay is looking to capitalize onto this. Wants the auto, but the minions stop him. A great minion block. They're on your team, Jishuka. They will save you. You got to give them a raise.
Yeah, a couple of times the minions have been helpful inside of a series like this. You got to see that in the last game, too. Right there, I think also the flash was considered from Stixxay, because he still had it to potentially get past that minion wave and throw an auto and a Q out. That's why the W is thrown. But ultimately, just not wanting to give that one up. Instead, they're just going to continue to take the push, because that forced Jizuka on a bad back timer to back, and Scoop now had to absorb this waves. Yeah, like you said, staggered. And the biggest thing about this is now they get to crash 2 different waves, a little more damage onto Scoop, and it's going to buy an amazing back timer for Stixxay and Chime here in a second, where they're going to be able to come back in tandem with one another, go anywhere on the map. If Chime wants to roam, he can, but the biggest part, again, is just taking those 2 away from one another in one collective play.
Amazing barrage! Stixxay snipes it on the Blaze!
He flashed too! Look at it, he flashed out of position, he saw it coming, and he was able to get out of the way, but he missed his flash! He wasn't able to get out of the way of the True Shot Barrage. Stixxay, what an ultimate right there to shut down Blaze!
Wow!
More preventing his back timing. They are putting him in this series, but Stixxay, what an ultimate!
I saw it coming on the mini-map. I almost didn't believe it, but the closer it got, the more I was like, this is landing, dude! Blaze going down. That feels terrible behind his own tower. He did get a recall, just not the way he anticipated.
And look at it. Again, so much roaming had actually come out from Blaze. I think I've seen him out of lane 3-4 times during this game. And Ryoma, again, picking up those 3 tower plates, being able to farm the way that he does, having all the experience that he does, and being able to know what this mid lane matchup is supposed to be. The Victor's up 40, 50 CS at this point. He's got 3 solo plates in his back pocket. This Victor's so strong.
Ooh, and Ryoma looking to outplay this one. Puts out his ultimate, flashes away. Griffin unable to get onto him. You can tell they're trying to stop this Victor from snowballing anymore. As the final spark goes out on the Chime, who's just gathering some vision for the time being. A little bit of a supportal combat going off. But the expiration of the sweeping lens will mean that he cannot get that ward. But will make an attempt to go after Blaze. Throws out the Mantra Q, just gets some chip damage. But yeah, that lead onto Ryoma, Rebel, it is insane at this point.
It's absurd. It sets him up for such an amazing mid and late game because they've done nothing to slow it down. And again, he's the wave clear. He's supposed to be the one that controls things. Chime actually finds an angle on Jashuka.
Ooh, great angle. Great true shot barrage. Great lunge forward from Stixxay to be able to grab that pick. And now without a support, you got to bail from that tower. It is forfeit. Golden Guardians looking to claim it.
And no team hasn't been able to capitalize really heavily on bottom side at all. They've just been getting bullied off by Stixxay and Chime. They knew how to play this lane, and they've done a very fantastic job of it. You can see the tower's about to go down. Pretty much all of that was in Stixxay's back pocket. All the gold, all the plates, and the tower gold on its own is going to be in the Ezreal. Exactly where you want it to be. That combined, again, with this huge lead that Ryoma is commanding, their 2 late game options are online. You can see they are the 2 highest gold recipients in the entire game, and then 3rd on the team and 5th in the game right now, Tony Top, he's getting there as well. Soon enough, he's going to be a legitimate threat in the side lane up against the Ornn, and he's not going to be able to stand there up against that. Everything that Golden Guardians needs to really make this composition tick is online, is going in this game.
And no team are doing their best to grab whatever objective they can, and that focus is going to be towards the Rift Herald. Golden Guardians Academy are going to be the wiser to this one. They're starting to come to that position. It's now a little bit of a race for no team to be able to finish this off before Golden Guardians get there. But Golden Guardians have arrived. The Rift Herald picked up, but here comes the team fight as the final spark goes out, as well as the call of the Forge God. Knock up from the 3-talon strike onto Griffin. A great return from Dragoon to try and delay this fight, to try and buy some time for no team to be able to make their escape. And a great escape it was from no team. They only sacrificed their support in the process, but they get the Rift Herald and they get out.
No team, yeah, I think this could have gone disastrously for them. Things got a little bit terrifying there in the midst of everything. It's not, okay, this should be over because they shouldn't be able to, oh, Scoop actually gets stopped. I was thinking he was much further through that ult or that back animation than he was. I think it's really fortunate for no team. The fact that they only lost Jizuka during that process and they were able to pull away the Rift Herald was about as good as you could have possibly hoped that situation to go. That was really close to being disaster. Dragoon saving it with the ultimate combined with a bit of play from every single person being able to walk out. It's not huge for no team, but again, it's free gold in your back pocket, a tower that you could potentially take at some point, and it's also denying further. If you wanted to help Tony top out, you just give him Rift Herald, and all of a sudden, if the Ornn steps out of line, you just throw the Rift Herald down, and an entire tower, maybe 2 entire towers get taken at a side lane. So denying that possibility from Golden Guardians.
Oh, there's the stun, able to get it as they go forward to the Crescent Guard to try and tear apart this team, and tearing apart, they will exactly do. Golden Guardians able to grab 2 in both Griffin and Blaze, showing out the true shot barrage. It will not land. Flash forward coming out of Chime.
Oh!
The laser is there, and so is Stixxay able to get that kill onto Jashuka. That is 3 down for no team, with no one to defend this siege. No one to defend the Drake that is being taken by Iconic right now. A great foot on the map for Golden Guardians Academy as they get their lead to about 5K.
I talked about it earlier about just how much range the no team has had, but I was actually baffled right there about just how far away Stixxay, Ryoma, and Chime could all do damage from in return, especially when you're sieging up against the tower like that. Iconic with the amazing flash in to cut that team in half entirely, but then one by one, Stixxay, Chime, Ryoma all picking out the perfect target and bringing them down instant by instant. There is no defense against it if you encroach upon their space. They pinch them against their own tower, and they just start throwing skill shots, and they win that battle in this situation, which is humongous. Golden Guardians sitting on 6k gold advantage. They are massively ahead in this game, and their Fiora is not even going quite yet. When the Fiora gets going, all of a sudden you're splitting Dragoon into bad places on the map and trying to get him into a team fight, and that's just going to lead to your side lane either going down, or it's going to lead to your team fights being disastrous the way they have already.
And this is definitely desperation right there. They know Tony Top hasn't gotten that far ahead, so they're going to put their attention over towards this top side. But Tony Top is able to walk away. This was a lot committed for no team to get nothing, so they're going to try and continue with the siege. But Golden Guardians Academy are walking towards this side of the map. Jishuka not far off. Iconic over the wall.
Oh my goodness.
The tower will be grabbed, but here comes Iconic. Jumps right onto Scoop, but Scoop will live. They're barely able to hop away from Tony Top. Call the Forge God just runs Iconic right down. Final Spark goes out, and no team, they've suddenly found it. They found their way to try and get kills, but Ryoma has shown up to the fight, and so has Stixay. These are Fed members on the side of Golden Guardians Academy, and they are feasting on the lives of no team. Trying to run away using the blast plant will be Dragoon, will be able to hop over, but Ryoma has his number, will chase him down, putting down the gravitational field, gets a little bit of a slow, one more Q to go out, looking for more of the paddle star, but Ryoma is dominating as he picks up Dragoon.
And it's no team who are looking for something to grasp onto, something to bring them back into this game. And I think they're trying to shut out Tony Top. They're at least trying to close off this opportunity for a side lane to really go against them. But it's Golden Guardians who, again, continue to pick away at this team. This team fight, especially, Scooped almost goes down, where not for an amazing flash, actually, or an amazing 90 caliber net. He would have gone down to Tony Top immediately there. And the middle of this fight looks great, but that's because Ryoma and Ezreal and Stixay have not arrived at all. When those two get to this fight, it is nothing short of disaster in the slightest. Two members went down. You could see the zoom out. Ryoma literally teleports into almost the middle of three full members, not terrified at all because of just how far ahead he is. Stixay gets to do the exact same thing on the back line, and they've got nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go. No one's going to save this no team, unfortunately, and that includes Zoe, who in the mid lane tries to throw damage, half health Ryoma, but it just doesn't matter because they don't have the damage to fight against them.
Threat in the front, threat in the back, not a thing no team could really do to find their way to take a win in that last team fight. Now focusing over on the top side, the tower will be taken down as Ryoma will continue to push this wave. Side lane control going over to Tony Top, catching a wave on the bottom lane, will start to push that in. No team standing as a unit of 3, walking away from the Drake area. No real vision established there. They're trying to catch out Stixay in the process as Ryoma continues to siege over towards this top lane. Stixay over the wall. No one really spotting him out now. No vision onto him. Will get scried upon as the ace in the hole goes out. Doesn't get too much damage. Able to arcane shift away and get to safety. As the light binding goes out, so does the final spark. But it's going to be one down. Stixay has fallen. If they find Ryoma, they can very easily get a team fight win on the back end of this. But there is the damage Ryoma brings to a team fight as he eviscerates Griffin and looks to find more. Blaze goes down as well. And Golden Guardians Academy, they bring the attitude. They bring defeat to no team.
How do you fight back against this team? You brought somebody down at the very beginning. Stixay is one of the highest gold members, and he's the safest, and they pick him off immediately, but it doesn't matter. There's too much gold and too many members. There are 2 carries that are just absurdly fed, and Ryoma's the other one, gets to walk in. Not to mention, there's still gold in the back pocket of Tony Top to work with as well. They don't have to worry about it, but you can see the damage charts on the left. Ryoma is a real, honest threat to every member of the enemy team. I feel like he can one combo just about anyone on no team, and there's nothing they can do without it. They have to kill both. They spent everything giving Stixay. Once that was gone, you gotta pull out of that fight, but they didn't. They waited too long. The teleports came through. The reinforcements were there, and Golden Guardians find yet another win in that topside jungle. They find another tower on the top side as well to get Tony Top further into this game. It is nothing but disaster at this point for no team. It's not looking good for their prospects to continue and take this to a 2-1 in their favor.
Ryoma and Stixay just too far ahead. So much gold into their pockets. The way they've been playing this game, the way they've been positioning has been beautiful, has been pristine. And now Golden Guardians Academy positioning around this Chem Drake that is spawning as they will go deep into the jungle of no team. Get all this deep vision in. Dragoon not realizing that there are sharks in the water. They begin to surround him. Ryoma will begin the dive. Looks for Dragoon. Dragoon looking to jump away. Iconic on the chase. Unable to find much else as the flash is burnt out of Dragoon, but that wasn't the objective. Focus wasn't to kill him. It was to take the tower, and Stixay will grab another.
Baron's on the other side of the map. They're forcing it down, and they need to be. But I don't think they care. I feel like they're just going to go for bottom lane inhibitor. They might even try to close the game. They don't have a wave right now. It's the one problem that they've got.
Oh my goodness.
There's no wave, right? There's just no... Okay, yeah. Nothing like that. They knew the Baron was getting taken the entire time. They're going to grab the bottom inhibitor. They're actually going to grab mid lane as well. This is really interesting because like usually you're like, oh, Baron, yeah, that's great. 2 inhibitors is just a death sentence, right? At this point,
Yeah.
it's 22 minutes. You don't have the wave clear to fight against an Ezreal and a Victor when they poke into your base, right? And they can also go get this dragon on their way out, be able to take that one as well. This is not good for no team. They're going to be shoved into their base. They have no control of the map anymore whatsoever. It's all the gold that's going to be heading into the pockets of Golden Guardians Academy in exchange for the Baron. That to me, the best thing you could say about that Baron is it gave them some gold, and it prevented Golden Guardians from getting that Baron.
Now Golden Guardians, as they're able to grab that Drake, it will be the second Drake in no position that they were in the last game when it came to Drake Souls, now having the advantage, having the lead. No team, same story cannot be said. Inhibitor down in the mid lane, inhibitor down in the bot lane. If Baron ever comes back up and that side lane pressure is coming out of Tony Top, it is going to be disastrous. It's going to be so hard to get towards that Baron when you have super minions knocking at your bottom, super minions knocking in the mid. At this point, I don't even think the next Baron does spawn, though, because Golden Guardians have such a strong lead, and they've been so surgical in trying to cut no team out of this tournament.
The game is not unbridgeable at 5k. The reason this is so hard for the side of no team is just that this composition is hard to breach, right? We talked about it. This is a team that kind of plays itself when it comes to the team fight, because like Xin Zhao can block a bunch of long-range damage, and you've got an absurd amount of long-range damage, and shielding to come out from the Karma. Like, there's nothing easy about the way to attack Golden Guardians Academy, which I think is really important in a game like this when you need to be. The only benefit they've got right now on the side of no team is that with no structures, there's no more gold to take, right? Like, there's basically no ambient gold. And number 2, they've got good pick potential. If they can use the Lux or the Zoe bubble, they've got penetration on both of those characters. They've got potential crit shots coming out from Scooped, who's almost onto 3 items. That is the only long shot that they've got, is potentially to look for something like that.
Ooh, here comes the ultimate Grand Challenge going to be used by Tony Top. Dissuades Dragoon from going any more forward. Call the Forge God still available. Grand Challenge will not be available for Tony Top. Siege continues pushing in those waves in the mid lane. Pushing in those waves in the bot lane, trying to get those super minions to crash into the base of no team. Over the wall, the damage so big. Ryoma, such a threat. The Cupcake Trap's doing quite a bit of work there to try and prevent Golden Guardians Academy from going forward. But they don't have the siege they would really want to defend against Golden Guardians Academy, because even if you get close to those minion waves, there's so much range on the side of Golden Guardians Academy that can come out, specifically from Stixxay landing these mystic shots. But now it looks like it's time to pull the trigger. The engage comes out. Tony Top now going to be completely on the run as Griffin dives in. Crescent Guard will knock him back. Dragoon tries to get in. Gets the knock up onto Stixxay, but no one can follow up in time except for Blaze, who lands the Paddle Star onto Stixxay. He will go down, but you need Ryoma. We talked about this before. Ryoma's starting to get low, and no team are starting to find some fight left in them. Tony Top's going to teleport in. Got low earlier. Was able to take the recall. Got back to the mid lane. Now shoving in those waves, going to push the waves over towards the top side so they can continue trying to clear out these waves, trying to stop this siege, trying to close out what could be the end for their chances in the circuit qualifier.
There was a filthy little trick that was done by Golden Guardians right there. That bottom lane wave was double stacked with siege minions, and that was going to be a huge threat. No team understood this, and they had to fight. There was no other alternative. If they don't fight there, they get pushed in mid and bot by Tony Top with 2, 3, 4 simultaneous waves stacked up, and top lane tower gets pushed at the same time. You probably just have to give up top lane tower and top lane inhibitor. There was no other choice if you don't take a fight right there. I can respect that they end up trading mid laner for bot lane. They get another kill into the back pocket of Blaze, and a bit of fight comes back. But that was necessary to happen. A very necessary evil was just the 1-for-1 trade. They prevent the top lane push. The mid and bottom inhibitor are both going to be able to respawn soon enough. The Dragons are still going to be enough to be able to start this game into a decent position where they're not going to lose outright. Tony Top fancies his chances against Dragoon. He's doing a lot of damage with those ultimates.
There's no tower. There's no protection. He needs his team to be able to help him out there. His team does show up, but there comes the gravitational field looking for the stun. Dragoon barely able to get away, but Scoop is so low. He's burning. He will be able to get to his respawn, but that is his support that just got decimated. Now Ryoma backs up, gets away from the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. The Paddle Stars are not finding their mark, but Golden Guardians are finding the base of no team. As another one falls, Griffin, Blaze, only Scooped left. Ryoma's going to try and find him. He doesn't care if he goes down. He's got a 700 gold bounty, but no team doesn't have a Nexus. Golden Guardians Academy taking this series.
All off the back of that bottom side, the play was being set up around the dragon about a minute in the future, right? They just step back up into their mid wave, step back up into the bottom wave, then walk back to dragon. They get their third, and all of a sudden you get to soul point, especially chem tech points. They're 5 minutes from a victory, right? But they step up too far, end up losing, and then that's the Golden Guardians just win a game. Once the Ornn is down, once there's nothing there to frontline, they just walk in with their champions and they take an easy dub. I can appreciate the fight that was there from No Team, because there was a very legitimate chance that game got a lot more scrappy if that went any longer. And I'm sure Golden Guardians had some recollection of what happened the first time they played in open qualifiers, didn't want a repeat of that, so instead they just clamped things off. Every member again performing. Ryoma today especially, though, had some amazing performances. That Victor in the third game was immaculate.
That Victor was disgusting. Throughout a lot of those team fights, I kept bringing it up, right? It's not enough to take Stixxay. You have to take Ryoma as well. If you don't find him, you lose the team fight, and that it was the case. Ryoma had enough damage to blow through anyone on No Team. Those health bars had no chance at what Ryoma was able to bring to those fights. He was definitely a disgusting part of this, but also props to Stixxay, because some of those mid-game snipes were disgusting. The one that he landed onto Blaze, who was backing behind his first tower, that was gross right there. And those are the type of plays that just really start to slowly snowball that lead ahead.
Yeah, Stixxay had great performance in game number 3. I want to throw it up to Chime as well, who I think even into the last moments of the game had highest kill participation on his team, because he was just a monster across the map once again. Every member of Golden Guardians showing off a little bit during the course of this series. I think really having a very solid performance against a team that was surging and having some really solid effects. To the side of No Team, again, this is a roster of players that came together. They're of their own volition. They came to represent themselves and to represent Amateur, and they did a damn good job of it. I got to give them props. They had a lot of moments during the series where they looked like they were contestable. I think the thing that caught them off guard today was that mid lane pressure. They weren't expecting Blaze to absorb that much pressure from so many angles during the beginning of this day. If it weren't for that, or if they had game planned for that a little bit more, I think it was possible that could have been even 2 more contested games in 1 and 3. But ultimately, Golden Guardians, when they weren't deciding to ego draft like in game number 2, they really showed what they were made of.
Yeah, hats off to No Team for their display within this tournament so far. You know, in the open qualifiers, they only fell to Maryville, and I believe it was 100 Thieves next, which is, you know, nothing to really scoff at. Taking losses there, it, you know, for a, you know, basically a pickup group, that was more of an intended outcome. What wasn't as intended as, wasn't as expected, sorry, was exactly how they were going to do as they work through this bracket. You know, they made it through the groups, they got into the bracket stage, and they faced one of the scariest teams within this tournament and took them to 3 games. They have nothing to be ashamed about as they leave this tournament here today. It was a great performance by them.
They did. They really did. I think everybody in Amit should be proud of the way the players were able to play today. Golden Guardians, they showed why they're Academy players. They showed why they have the experience. They showed why they're on LCS lock-in right now by flexing a little bit, not only in terms of like not only flexibility, but also just individual skill, team play, things like that. We're all flexed a little bit by Golden Guardians today. No Team showing that they at least had the ability to compete up against some of the best. And Golden Guardians now continues into the tournament. They get to walk into the semifinals, which should be an exciting bout when we get to figure out who their opponent is. And until that moment, I mean, we got another series a little bit later today to decide another one of our semifinalists.
But first, our analysts would like to break down the series that just transpired before us, because that was some pretty intense stuff. I do not envy you to be able to break down that one. Izzy, rest of the analyst desk, go ahead and take it away.
All right, welcome back to the desk. Golden Guardians Academy took the win against No Team in that final game 3. We have thoughts, especially on the draft. Manny, just kick us off with that.
Yeah, so taking a look at the draft, we once again kind of cursed the team that we thought had the better draft at the start, but this was kind of after first rotation because we weren't big fans of GGA's first round bans here. We were like, wait, they're just going to ban the Diana themselves and give over B1 Caitlyn? Like, I'm not really much of a fan of giving over Caitlyn on this patch under any circumstances, right? The fact that they got that and Trundle and Lux, which Trundle does a fantastic job of setting up Caitlyn Lux. You know, we were like, wow, you know, No Team is kind of smurfing on this draft. And then afterwards, though, we kind of changed our mind a bit after we saw how the comp was rounded out. I know neither of us were huge fans of the Zoe pick into that team because it just becomes really hard for them to kill GGA's backline because it's like, okay, you've got Poke, but like, what else, right? How are you ever going to get onto their back line? It didn't really work, and unfortunately, we did see GGA kind of won their lanes, and it became pretty impossible for no team to kill them pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Hawk, I hope you're feeling okay after your predictions went a little south. We appreciate the spirit of amateur here. I want you to break down this early game because it did feel like, no team didn't immediately fold over. So I want you to talk a bit about this first blood.
Yeah. It was a little heartbreaking. I mean, no team played a good game. It felt like, at least early on. It was there was a good fight in them. In particular, I want to bring it to that first blood that Griffin had because it was a great pathing by Griffin. He identifies that the Xin Zhao is going to want to path towards the Caitlyn lane to start attacking that early on and try to keep them down. And the most natural way to do that, Red Raptors Gromp, Xin Zhao, bread and butter. You hit level 3 real quick and can go for anything that you really want. So Griffin, he susses that out. He does his own 3 camp clear, walks right in and takes a great first blood right there. So really nicely done by Griffin to start getting his team ahead. But it just felt like sort of the story of the game almost, where no team would make plays that looked good and they'd lose out. I mean, for example, there was a 1-for-1 bot dive as well where Blaze got a kill, but he also dropped like 3 waves mid and ended up being down 35 CS at 10 minutes again, and then at 15 minutes was down 50, which is not exactly what you want to see. And all credit to Golden Guardians. It just felt like they always knew what they needed to fight for and what they were okay to give up. And so no team oftentimes reaching too far into the cookie jar and not really getting that much as they wanted. So here's that replay of the first blood. Griffin simply using his priority, able to walk in and take down the Xin. Unfortunately, replay crashing a little bit right there.
No
but
worries.
Yeah.
I think you're telling of that. Oh, we did get
Oh,
it.
we're back. All right. We got the replay. Yes, Griffin coming in. He has the sweeper. He knows that he clears just that little bit faster than Iconic. And Trundle, very good into the Xin Zhao for exactly this reason. You're able to just stat check him early, forces out the early smite, flash follow, chomp, auto attack, dead. Karma has nothing to say about it. And it just puts Griffin very far ahead in tempo, and he's able to use that to take things like First Dragon, like First Rift Herald. But as I was saying, there just wasn't really enough gas in the tank from no team to get over that finish line. And like Manny said, you can't kill an Ezreal with a Karma behind him with the composition that you had drafted.
And speaking of the unkillable Ezreal, Stixay absolutely popped off on this pick, and I know in later team fights it definitely showed. Manny, do you want to talk a bit about the Ezreal pick and how GGA worked in those team fights?
Yeah, so you can kind of see it here in this fight if we want to roll that replay. It basically becomes just very hard for the for no team compositionally to actually deal with this Ezreal, right? Because I was asking, I was asking myself, right, during the thing, it's like, how do you ever get on this Ezreal, right? How do you ever kill this Ezreal? Who kills Ezreal, right? And the answer is Stixay, really, is like the one that stands the best chance of killing Ezreal. It's just, there's no threat onto him at all from this comp if he is, positioning well and just playing out the matchups right. And, Chime kind of is karma gaming right here, running in, trying to finish off Scooped. And even though this fight looks like it starts to go well for no team, it doesn't matter just because Ryoma and Stixay are just so big. And Stixay got to a point in this game where he was just actually unkillable. And a lot of credit for that goes to Chime with how he played out that early lane phase, where, if Caitlyn Lux is able to hit a binding, they can win that trade, right? But for the most part, in terms of raw DPS, Ezreal Karma does win that, and they were able to play that matchup perfectly. They were able to get Stixay ahead, and at a certain point, he just kind of became unstoppable. He did die once, but we don't talk about that. The game was nearly done by then.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on that too, because you said a name that I feel like we haven't really talked about as much as maybe justice is deserved for here on the Analyst Desk is Chime. Game 1, the Blitzcrank. We talked about how it was maybe a mistake on no team allowing the tower dive to happen, but the wherewithal from Chime to make that play happen and then go back a minute and a half later and get 2 kills for Lucian early on in game 3, punishing the Lux, looking extremely good on this Karma, keeping his carries alive. Even in the game 2, I feel like playing the Blitzcrank fine, all things considered, just when everything's kind of collapsing around you. So, I mean, Chime showing that he is absolutely, I would say it's pretty safe to say the best support in the tournament. Really making a name for himself here, and just a beautiful game on the Karma.
Yeah, and if you're no team, I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? You took GGA to 3 games. They're an academy team. As far as as far as amateur teams go, I mean, they've done a great job showing up and showing that, hey, we can compete with these guys. On on a good day, right? They had a game, and that's more than a lot of teams have been able to say against Golden Guardians this tournament. So no team, they got a lot. They got a lot to work on, but at least they showed up, and they did scare Golden Guardians for sure, because they were very close to being out of this tournament in quarterfinals, which we wouldn't stop talking about for a while had it happened.
Yes, well, it was a great series. I'm so glad it went 2-1, wasn't that full 2-0 stomp. We're going to send it to a very, very brief break, and then I'll be back joined by Acadian for a short interview.
All right.
All right, welcome back. I am joined today by Acadian, Golden Guardians Academy head coach. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Congrats on the win. You guys are rocking kind of a crazy competitive schedule right now. How are you and the squad holding up?
Honestly, today was pretty hard. We all got our COVID boosters yesterday, so a lot of the team had like really bad sleep. And today was pretty stressful. So I'm just really happy that we were able to get the 2-1 and go next day fast. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, it definitely feel like out of all the teams, Golden Guardians Academy can definitely put up with the pressure competing so many days a week. Are there any major advantages to competing in all these different events all at once? Have you guys really found your groove as a team? Um,
Yeah,
how is the
I think, well, we weren't initially planned to play LCS lock-in. That wasn't part of my calculations when I decided to enter this tournament with the team. But as far as I could tell, last year I watched some of the academy teams enter, namely Golden Guardians Academy and EG Academy last year in spring. I was playing, and when I was in spring, I watched them play, and I thought they were pretty bad teams. And they played in a bunch of the amateur tournaments and played in a lot of these like real matches. And I thought that they came out of it way better, like way stronger than they were before. So my thought was just play as many real matches as we can early on to kind of speed up the process of gelling and having to play in like high pressure situations together. And yeah, I mean, I think so far it's been working pretty well.
Yeah, so were you the main factor in that decision to enter in this circuit qualifier?
I think the assistant coach Gito and I both talked about it, and we that was our opinion. We both kind of agreed on that, and then brought it up to the team, and then everyone just agreed to play. So, kind of, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you guys are looking good for sure. A big topic of discussion on the analyst desk today was that on the side of no team, a lot of their resources go into Griffin, their jungler, and so your response was on a Diana on Iconic for games 1 and 2. Worked more in game 1 than it did in game 2. Do you want to talk about the draft a bit today and some of the strategy and approach to this series?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think specifically game two, I mean, honestly, props to their team or their coach, whoever did the draft. But I think their comp played really well into what we picked. We wanted basically like a dive comp, and they had Galio for counter engage, Thresh for counter engage, and then Darius, that's where he likes, where he doesn't have to kite anyone. So the game two draft was pretty hard to play out 5v5s, but I think we just fell back to like more of a standard style where we just play like mage with bot lane focus draft, and we were able to win with that one. So.
Now, despite such a stressful day, if there's any one player or even other team as a whole that anything you'd like to shout out and say that you're really proud of thus far in the tournament, yeah, how is everyone holding up, and what is your message to the players?
Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm just happy. I'm proud of everyone for winning the third game. I think it was a pretty stressful day, so just happy we got through it and we got the dub. Also, Tommy's been playing really well, just in general. Just been gapping everyone that he's played against pretty much so far. So just shout out to him for good performances and shout out to the team to come together and get the win.
Well, best of luck on your upcoming semifinals against the winner of the Taco Gaming and Immortals AoE series. That'll be playing over on Academy shortly. Yeah, just best of luck and have a great season.
Thank you.